Parsippany-Troy Hills Planning Board for Monday, June 10th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. Announcement is made that adequate notice of this meeting has been given and that it is being conducted in accordance with NJSA 10:4-6 at sec of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman McGrath.
Here.
Mr. Mealy.
Here.
Mr. Napolitano.
Here.
Mr. Stanzio.
Here.
Chairman Dinsmore.
Here.
We also have present our board planner, Ms. Winter, our board engineer, Mr. Canjiano, and our board attorney, Mr. Lagana.
All right, if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, this meeting is open to the general public. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to this board on something that is not on tonight's agenda? Hearing and seeing none. We have one item on our agenda. That's application number 24:506, 20 to 30 Lanadex Urban Renewal LLC, 20 to 30 Lanadex Plaza West, Block 226, Lots 3 and 3.2, Zone ROL. Preliminary and final major site plan, major soil moving permit for construction of a warehouse with office space, loading docks, drive-in ramps, trash compactor bay, and parking. Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and the public. For the record, my name is John Inglesino, partner with the law firm of Inglesino Taylor here in Parsippany. We are representing the applicant, 20-30 Lanadex Urban Renewal LLC. Regarding this application, for what as the chairman accurately said, is preliminary and major site plan approval regarding property located at lots 3 and 3.2 in block 226, also known as 20-30 Lanadex Plaza West here in Parsippany. First of all, let me say that we appreciate the board providing this special meeting tonight so that we can proceed with the application. We last appeared before the board on May 20th. Very briefly, this application concerns a warehouse pursuant to a redevelopment plan, which was unanimously approved by the governing body last year, and a redevelopment agreement which was approved by the town council on May 21st. You heard testimony on May 20th from Dan Miola, who was serving as the applicant's civil engineer, and you also heard testimony from Mr. Bob Mueller, the applicant's sound expert. Both witnesses addressed all questions from the board and the public. That said, we have another civil engineer from Langen here to testify, Mr. John Cote. Mr. Cote is better able to address open issues from the last meeting because Mr. Cote has much more experience with the project. In fact, Mr. Cote was supposed to testify on May 20th, but could not due to a family emergency. So he is here this evening. He's not here tonight to redo the testimony that has already been provided, that's in the record, but rather to address the limited open issues that exist regarding civil engineering. One, the feasibility of an alternative design for the project, given the site characteristics. Two, the sidewalks, the feasibility of sidewalks on Parsippany Road. Three, the water tank, which is needed for fire pressure. And four, the turning radius coming into the site from Parsippany Road from the north, making a right-hand turn into the site. So those are the four issues that Mr. Cote will testify to. Our other witnesses for the application are Mr. Alan Lothian, also of Langen, regarding traffic. This is a permitted use, so I don't think that the traffic testimony will be very long. And then we have Kyle Ferrier of Arco Design Build regarding architectural design of the building. And lastly, we have the planner, Rachel Fifield, who will testify to the handful of variances or deviations that exist under the redevelopment plan. So without further ado, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call Mr. Cote to testify.
There's your case.
Good evening. Mr. Cody, please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address for the record, please spell your last.
John Cote, last name is spelled C-O-T-E. The address, is this, yeah, a little closer? Yeah, I'm sorry, John Cote, spelled C-O-T-E. Address is 300 Kimball Drive, Parsippany, New Jersey, 07054.
Counsel, could you please qualify Mr. Cote, please?
Mr. Cody, can you please provide your professional background for the board? Please indicate your educational background, where you work, any licenses that you possess.
Sure. I have a Bachelor's of Engineering degree from Stevens Institute of Technology. I've been a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey since 1992. My license is in good standing, and I've been accepted before this board as an expert on prior applications.
So we would ask that Mr. Cote be recognized as an expert in the area of civil engineering.
Any questions on Mr. Cote's qualifications from the board? Hearing and seeing none. Counselor?
So, Mr. Cote, if you would, please provide testimony with regard to the 4 issues I outlined for the board.
Sure. What I'm going to do, I'm going to give, put some exhibits up to illustrate some of the points in my testimony. I'm going to start, and I'm not sure the exhibit number we're starting with here. Try a different mic. Is this any better?
The mic is on, you just have to speak a
Okay,
little bit.
I'll just push it up closer. Okay. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to put up a board that's going to illustrate part of the discussion here. And I'll hand out, I'm going to turn this so that it's square. I don't know if this is good for the public as well to see. Oops.
Mr. Inglesino, is this a new exhibit?
I believe it is. Do you know what
this is
exhibit
a-
we're up to?
A8.
A8?
8, okay. And then I'll hand this out, actually. There's 20 copies, whatever's extra. So I'll label this as Exhibit A8.
Now, Mr. Cody, if you can briefly, before testifying on that exhibit, in anticipation of this hearing, we had met with the Board of Education and also some interested property owners, the DiMaggios and the Petersons. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the plans that were submitted in connection with this application are identical to the plans that we had showed to those interested parties. Is that correct?
Correct with the modification, we added additional plantings based on the conversation we had with the Board of Education. Yeah, I'm speaking with my mouth on the mic. I don't know how else to make it. Yeah. So I met with the board, as Mr. Inglesino said. I met on February 9th with both the board, the funeral parlor owners, as well as the Governor Livingston Park.
The Petersons, correct?
Petersons, yes, exactly. And in that meeting, we went through the project, and I put together a plan that is the plan that you see today before you. But from that meeting, we took comments and we added additional plantings to the plan on the west end of the site associated with the adjacency to the East Lake School. So that meeting, we discussed a number of different points about the project, and in particular, the orientation of the property and the project. So when we looked at this site, we looked at alternative designs. One particular alternative design was to have the building rotated facing Parsippany Road. And in particular, when you face Parsippany Road, the loading on the east side of the property requires the building to be at an elevation that you can access it from Parsippany Road. Parsippany Road is at a higher elevation, East Lake School is at a lower elevation. In order to go through that design and put together a plan that would show how the face of the building would present to the neighboring property, I put together a cross-section here. The cross-section profile that's on this plan, this is a plan entitled School to Parsippany Road Section Profile. It's drawing EX06, and it's dated May 20th, 2024. So this exhibit shows 2 buildings on it, and basically it's a cross-section looking from Parsippany Road at the higher elevation, coming across the site down towards East Lake School Elementary. And the 2 buildings that are shown, the one in yellow and the overlapping one in orange, show the different orientations as if the building was presented to Parsippany Road for loading or presented towards East Lake. And in doing so, the site itself, in order to allow the loading facilities to operate at the front of the building, requires the building to be elevated much higher creating a large massing of the building as it presents to the school proper. In addition to that, it would require trucks to circulate around the back of the building, more or less the west side of the building, adjacent to East Lake. That building portion would be in same proximity to where the loading docks would be if the building was facing the other way. So what we did to basically avoid the large massing of this building, the 25-foot high wall, and then the 44-foot high building, both adjacent facing the school, we flipped the building and were able to lower the entire mass, push it down to the ground, and it accomplished several things that were discussed at the meeting with the Board of Education as well as the neighbors. In particular, on the east side of the site, where we have the parking, we were able to push the parking down at a level where the parking is now shielded from the funeral home as well as Parsippany Road. Positioning the loading dock in the rear allowed us to lower the site, and in lowering it allowed us to put basically a position to drop the building down as well as the actual mass of the entire site. And in addition to that, we were able to introduce a sound barrier that would basically operate to shield the building both from sound and visual, so that the appearance from the school side of it is a smaller building with it shielded by the sound barrier. So this illustration shows the two positions of the buildings. It shows how the larger, higher position of the building facing the school would have been presented to the school, and that the new building is actually lower and less impactful to the neighboring property. So we went through a number of iterations to get to the plan that we have before you, the actual current plan. I'll put that plan back up. That was an exhibit previously presented. The exhibit number is Exhibit A3, which is the rendered drawing. A3 illustrates the positioning of the building with the parking on the east, the loading on the south, the sound barrier on the south as well, wrapping around the building proper. This southeast corner of the building, where the office space is and the parking, is approximately 14 feet lower than the elevation of the funeral home. The same truck traffic that would have had to circulate around the building in the opposite orientation comes down through into this western portion of the site, operates behind the sound barrier, and then exits back out that same way to exit back out to Parsippany Road, Landex Plaza and Parsippany Road. This orientation serves also, from a sound barrier point of view, is more protective of the westerly properties, the northerly properties, and the southerly properties with respect to sound. This also allowed us, in the layout, to position the building in a way where we're able to put our stormwater management and not impact the wetlands. Previously, the layout that we had with the flip of the building required us to take down the tree stand that's on the southern portion of the property, the tree stand that is between our development and the neighboring residential properties. With this development, we do not have to modify that in any way. And we do not impact the wetlands. In fact, we're enhancing the wetlands based upon removing asphalt that's currently within the transition area of the wetlands proper. So this plan served multiple purposes. It lowered the wall heights, it lowered the building and its massing and appearance to the neighboring properties, and it presented, with the sound barrier and the parking being set below Parsippany Road, a way that is both improved for both the funeral home, the school, as well as the northerly Governor Livingston property park. So that's the heart of the decisions we went through to basically look at the site, and then on top of that, we went out and tested for stormwater management, and the prior system, when we proposed the flip of the building and put stormwater management where we could, the testing proved that we could not use the stormwater management in the locations indicated on the south, where the tree stand was, and on the north, where we had the opportunity to do stormwater management based on the actual tests. We had previously had parking up against the Landex Plaza for the flipped arrangement. So all the parking would have been here, all the loading would have been here at the higher elevation relative to Parsippany Road, and the arrangement would have still required trucks to travel around the building proper. So we were able to eliminate and actually design a better layout with this configuration, considering the site constraints both vertically from a stormwater point of view, and also from a sound point of view. So that's the first element of my testimony. The next thing I want to discuss was the question of the sidewalk and adding the sidewalk to the property. So I have another exhibit. This is exhibit EX08. EX08 is a series of street views taken from Google Street Map. Google Street Map images of Parsippany Road. I'm going to label this as
A9.
A9. So A9 is exhibit EX08. It's labeled sidewalk exhibit, and it's dated June 6, 2024.
And you prepared that, or somebody in your office prepared that?
That's correct. It's prepared under my supervision. So once everyone gets a copy of that, yep, I'll go over it. So what the sidewalk exhibit basically illustrates are the intersection of Lenadex Plaza and Parsippany Road in what's identified as photograph number 1, or image number 1 from Google Street Maps. That shows the current configuration of what's out there today, the newly built sidewalks, the crosswalks that are installed, and the signal heads that are installed for that particular intersection. Making your way looking south on Parsippany Road, the next image, number 2, illustrates the sidewalk on the east side of Parsippany Road, showing the sidewalk, a grass strip between that and the curb line, and that making its way south on adjacent to the current using IBEW building and in front of the Chase Bank. The next photograph is now looking at Parsippany Road on our side of the property. Number 3 photograph is looking at in a northwest view across our frontage, where we have a fire hydrant, utility pole, and several trees. And in a similar fashion, looking south on our side of the property, same utility pole for reference. Looking down to the south on photograph number 4 shows the perspective looking along the west side of Parsippany Road. These photographs just show what the existing conditions are, everything on here, nothing's proposed, what's shown on here right now. The next photograph, number 5, is Parsippany Road at the funeral home, basically looking west towards the funeral home. And then the last photograph is looking north with the funeral home on the left and the Chase Bank on the right-hand side, number 6. 7 is actually the intersection of Allentown Road looking north with the intersection of Parsippany Road. So the reason for the photographs is basically to illustrate several items that I understand the board was looking for sidewalk to be installed along the east side of Parsippany Road, making its way across our frontage. So in order to do so, there are several constraints along that. Looking at the photographs 3 and 4, the trees that are out there today are in the position where the sidewalk would need to be placed, maintaining that piece of the shoulder line you see out there today and the edge of pavement that's out there. So that shoulder line, and that you'll see it both in both 3 and 4, means that the trees that are out there would be impacted. I know there was some concern previously about our limit of disturbance. Would it affect these mature trees along Parsippany Road? We're actually set back further into the property beyond the drip line of those trees. So we're not looking to impact those trees with our current design routed along the wall that's routed along to the west of Parsippany Road. So this combination of utilities, what will end up happening is if you want a sidewalk there, the sidewalk would have to either take out the trees and meander around the existing utilities. There are a few utilities on the other side of the road if you're looking at photograph 2. Photograph 2 illustrates that the east side of the road of Parsippany Road, the mature trees are all 20-plus feet back from where the sidewalk was installed. So that installation of that sidewalk with the grass strip that was proposed on the other side worked well to not impact the existing trees on Parsippany Road. So I'll just state that that would be one consequence of the installation. The second is the terminus point. Photograph number 5 shows the tail end of our property, more or less the southeast corner of our property, where it terminates at the funeral home. The sidewalk would end in the picture approximately, there's a small black dot on the far right side of the picture, maybe a little bit off to the left of that is where the property line ends. So that that's where the sidewalk would end. If anyone were to use the sidewalk, they would either have to walk through the funeral home property proper or walk across the shoulder along the side of the road to make their way further down to Allentown Road. The existing system that's out there today allows anyone from our side of the road to traverse south by crossing at the newly configured intersection with all of the signalized crosswalks that has been built on Parsippany Road and Lanedex Plaza. So the question is, and I know it was commented, I believe, listening to the last hearing in the video, was that the sidewalk to nowhere was part of the discussion. And, you know, where do we start? Where do we stop? So my only concern about putting the sidewalk here is it would be subject to all the elements that I just discussed in terms of the existing trees and utilities that would be in proximity, and also to the county. I haven't gotten a call back from the county. I did try the county to see if there was a discussion I could have with them about what they're thinking about, would they permit a sidewalk to be built there? I don't know the answer to that.
So, Mr.
I would
Kelly,
still make it subject to the county.
if you were a pedestrian walking towards the funeral home, I guess that would be south. The only way that you could reach Allentown Road, it would be to either trespass on the funeral home property or walk out into the street.
Walking the shoulder or on their parking lot or around their
Those would be the two options where the sidewalk ends, correct?
So that's correct. So I think those are the reasons why I think originally we didn't think to put a sidewalk there from an impact point of view. And that's basically what's on the table right now, the discussion about those points.
So I think in terms of framing this for the board, you heard the testimony. We feel that there's a very good pedestrian connection on the other side of the street, a safe connection on the other side of the street. And you heard where we feel there are issues with putting a sidewalk on our side of the street. That said, if the board is really committed to a sidewalk on our side of the street, we would, as a condition of approval, ask the county if the county would agree to that, and we would do it because we want to work with the board. But it does create a situation where folks walk to the end of the sidewalk, they either got to trespass or walk into the middle of the street, because as you can see, and can you talk a little bit about the column, the structure there from the funeral home? You have to navigate that. In order to navigate that, you'd have to walk out into the shoulder of the street, correct?
Yeah, either you're walking the shoulder of the street or you're walking onto their pavement through their parking lot or their front drop-off in front of the funeral home proper to traverse the property.
So, I mean, you know, we'll do it if you want to do it. We'll make the try. We don't know what the county is going to say. It's a county road, so the county really has jurisdiction. It's the county's call. But as a condition of approval, we'll certainly make the effort, you know, to ask.
The county improvements...
Mr. Chairman?
Sorry.
What about the concept of what has come up in previous meetings about creating some type of escrow, that if something is able to be created, and once that there is so my question is to the chairman, is what about creating some type of escrow that has been discussed for a township-wide potential for sidewalks? So if there are approvals, and once we have a master plan that is identifying sidewalks in a lot of these newly developed areas, that there will be money to pay for it, so it doesn't impact the taxpayers in the town.
Certainly, if this is something that is subject to other approvals and has to be done down the line, what I was going to ask at this point is that hadn't we agreed to having some sort of a barrier along there, the metal barrier, so that you won't have a car running off into your parking lot?
Well, the county is requiring a guardrail along the road there. So, John, can you just discuss a little bit about where the sidewalk would be relative to the guardrail? Obviously, it would have to be behind it, correct?
The sidewalk would possibly be able to be.
And we don't know. That's why we would have to go to the county and propose it.
I can refer to that on two of the photographs. So you're looking at photograph number 3. You see the curb line that's there along the road? The county wants guide rail behind that curb line, running the length of that. Then it passes past the curb line on photograph number 4, going further south. So more or less what you see is just beyond the edge of shoulder there is where the guide rail would be proposed by the county. So behind that, if you look at the proximity of the edge of shoulder and the trees that are shown on there, either the sidewalk, either the trees would come down to put the sidewalk in, or the sidewalk would, I don't see a place to position it between the two, but that would be the discussion with the county about sidewalk, guide rail, there's the curb line they want us to replace, then the guide rail, and then the sidewalk relative to whatever else is behind it. So that's why I think from a condition point of view, we just need to know that that's going to be an acceptable scenario there where we take that down to create the sidewalk.
Okay, I'm just trying to get, I mean, we got a lot of things we're trying to pack into this piece of land.
But that's, just for reference, everything we're talking about is within the right-of-way. Nothing we're doing affects any of this area in our current design. So we're not impacting our layout in any way with sidewalk considerations. It's purely what do you want to see in the right-of-way from the township's point of view for sidewalk, and what's the right scenario. The county will have an opinion on it, I'm sure, and that's...
The county did not, we received a review letter from Morris County Planning Board, correct?
That's correct. It did not
And
indicate
the Morris
sidewalks.
County Planning Board did not request a sidewalk,
That is correct.
correct? But they did ask for other improvements, the guide rails, et cetera, correct?
Guide rails, the curb line, exactly. So, just for the purpose of my testimony, it was just to outline what are the issues associated with putting in the sidewalk, and leave it to the board's discretion at how you want to handle that, if that's acceptable.
Well, this is something that we as a board and the council have basically said we need to put in sidewalks wherever feasible, period.
Mhm.
Even if it's a sidewalk to nowhere, because either there'll be a master plan for sidewalks, which is what we're going to recommend to the council that they do, or there's going to be another application down the road that will make it possible so that nowhere is somewhere.
Mhm. Understood.
So, again, we can agree as a condition of approval to either, if the county were to approve the sidewalk there, we'd have to request it, that we would either install it or escrow money, but that escrow of money couldn't come unless the county approved it, because
Yes.
there has to be a relationship between the MLUL, the impact and the development. So if the county said yes to a sidewalk and they were supportive of it, they would either install it or agree on an escrow for that, at that time.
Does that answer your question?
Yes?
Okay, so I'll move on to my next point of testimony, which is related to the fire tank. As a result of getting the testing done on the water supply system, it was determined that the existing water supply does not adequately support the fire suppression system needed. So as a function of that, we're proposing a water tank and a fire pump house. The water tank and fire pump house previously were discussed at different locations, but I'm going to identify on a drawing here. The location is proposed to be on the south side. We're going to keep it away from the intersection of Lanadex Plaza and Parsippany Road. This is more or less the south end of the property. And this is, I'm going to label this as Exhibit A10.
Or is that just a plan that was submitted?
This is a new plan. I just handed it to Nora.
So that's colorized and it wasn't submitted as is?
This is just in a reduced fashion. This was not submitted under the original plan set.
Okay, so
Yeah,
A10.
exhibits, yeah, A10. A10 is Exhibit EX09. It's labeled the utility plan with fire pump house and fire supply tank, dated June 10th, 2024. So what this plan illustrates, there was discussion, I think, at the last hearing about potentially putting the tank up along Parsippany Road adjacent to the existing corner where, I'll call it the northeast corner, where the property goes across Lanadex Plaza. In doing that, that created setback variances, and I think visually was not an appealing scenario. So we looked on the site to see where we could put the pump house and the tank to get it away from the visuals of the roadway. On the south end, where we already currently have an embankment, we can position the tank and the fire pump house along that, which will put it behind the building. It'll be shielded by both the natural existing woodland that are on the south side of the property, and it will not be seen by Parsippany Road for other than the small sliver once you pass by between the funeral home and the building proper. The two variances associated with this location are, one, that there's two accessory structures, and the redevelopment plan allows for one, but a fire pump house is required to go along with the tank proper to support the needs. I don't know, we don't typically combine them into one structure, so that's why there's two structures and why that would be considered a variance under the redevelopment plan. The second is that the height of the tank will likely be 30 feet in height. It'll approximately be 15 feet lower than the roof line of the proposed warehouse. And it's down the hill here compared to Parsippany Road by around 12, 14 feet, which means the visual side will be anywhere from 15 to 16 feet from, if you were driving along Parsippany Road. Setback from Parsippany Road, I don't have the length here, but, well, setback behind the whole funeral home property. So this is a place we found where we could put it, with the understanding that it still required two variances that we would discuss as part of this hearing, and that those are there to support the ability to provide the fire service. Now, alternatively, the applicant has asked me to contact Parsippany's Water Department to see if there's an opportunity for the cost involved in doing the tank and the fire pump house, if there's an alternative place to install a new main to create a better interconnect and possibly bolster the existing system today, then that would be an alternative. We need to ask for this because we don't know if that's going to work. Parsippany Water Department has some reservations about information. They can't provide us with information, security reasons. They can't provide us information on all their water mains, so we can't analyze where we could potentially do that. But I'm going to look to meet in person with them to see if I can have that discussion, see if there's an opportunity to put a water main connection in that could enhance this, not just this property, but the area proper. If there is an option for that, and then the cost balance is equivalent to this tank, the applicant's willing to put the money into that versus the tank, which would help more than just the property, help the neighboring area for fire service.
So that would be another condition of approval that the applicant would be willing to agree to, and that is to meet with the Parsippany Water Department. We're going to need some assistance in doing that to be able to obtain the information needed to see if a new main can be established at the location. And if it can be at a cost, that is in line with what the tank would be, then we'd be willing to do that. And that would obviate the need for the tank. If we couldn't achieve that objective, then we would need to do the tank.
I'm a little surprised that whole area hasn't been upgraded because of the Lanedex East project, but
We don't know, and listen, the world we live in today, I understand they get a call and, the initial reaction is Homeland Security.
Yep.
Kind of concerns, and we understand and appreciate that. We're just going to have to kind of get through that in some way to just get the information so that for this purpose, Mr. Cote and the Parsippany engineering folks can determine whether or not there is an opportunity there for another main that would, as Mr. Cote indicated, benefit not only this property, but also benefit the surrounding area. And we're willing to do that. If we can't, then we need the water tank.
And that's the reason why we're asking for it in this particular case. Okay.
Mr. Cote, I have a question regarding
Sure.
Visual look of the tank and the pump house. What's
Yeah,
it
it's
constructed with?
a 27-foot diameter tank, 30 feet tall. The pump house will likely be a one-story structure with a physical engine, a motor in it that basically is used to develop pressure to achieve the pressure and volume that the supply provides the volume, the pump provides the pressure and the gallons per minute needed in the system to support the fire suppression on the building.
What will the pump house be, kind of material?
It could be material to match the facade of the building proper. It could be brickwork. It could be the material imaging that's you'll see in the architectural as well. Typically, we match the facade of the buildings we're adjacent to.
Okay. So if there's any other questions from the board, I thought that would be helpul to
Sure.
visualize what it would look like.
Sure.
makes sense.
So, Mr. Cote, anything else on that point, or do you want to move to your
No,
last point?
and then next piece of the discussion, with respect to the engineering review, Mr. Canjiano provided a comment regarding the access coming in off of Lanedex Plaza, and I'll introduce another exhibit. This is an updated truck turning maneuver. So one of the questions asked in the review was, can we resolve the intersection activity, the trucks turning in, coming in south on Parsippany Road, with vehicles then exiting to the, exiting south and in addition, both at the same time. So part of the discussion was the curb return. What's out there today in the photographs I showed earlier, you have the existing crosswalks. Oh, I'm sorry, that didn't get distributed. I'll wait, sorry.
And Lucino, this is A11,
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, A11.
and it's an updated truck circulation?
This is, we'll call it Exhibit EX04, and it's considered an updated plan. It's truck circulation exhibit WB50, the type of vehicle that we're using for the truck turning maneuvers. So with this plan up in the top left of the corner of the page, where you see the vehicle coming in off of Parsippany Road, making the right-hand turn, we worked through the geometry here that we would take the corner there and widen that along that portion to basically allow for that turning maneuver. Basically, I don't know if you want top right. Oh, you see it? Okay, sorry. So with discussion with the county, we would look to coordinate with them relative to the signal itself. The one main goal here was to not impact the existing signal heads that have been installed now, nor the crosswalks that are out there today. So this geometry would allow us to basically maintain those crosswalks. We would adjust the curb line and pull that back, and then allow that for the turning maneuver for the vehicles. So this is a question that we wanted to address Mr. Cangiano's review, and again, subject to coordination with the county on the turning maneuvers. So I don't know if there's any questions regarding that. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
want me, should I ask the questions now or wait till he's done with his testimony?
I think, do you have anything further?
The only other item we were going to add, which is not relative to any exhibits here, but in the testimony under the last hearing, we talked about the sound barrier being 15 feet tall. I just want to clarify that it's going to be 16 feet tall, and we'll change the annotation on the plan because the manufacturer works in 4-foot segments. So when we had 15 feet before we had selected the exact wall, now it's going to be 16 feet for that purpose to work with the manufacturer that was identified, the EcoStone product. And that's everything relative to those items, yes. So,
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
I'll start with Mr. Cangiano because it's
All right,
engineering
working
test.
from the most recent backwards, the truck circulation, thank you for making the adjustment, or will be making the adjustment in discussion with counties. Yeah, modifying the throat, widening that curb entry will help the truck movements. However, you used the WB50.
I did because the majority of the trucks, the WB67s, the sleeper cab versions, right, are basically the lesser of the number of trucks. Those when coming in, you know, won't have the exact same pattern, but I think they can be accommodated as what you see the truck drivers do today, more or less make that courtesy right while the other truck is making its exit. So for that purpose, the WB67 was the lesser of the truck.
Do you know who the user is going to be for this site?
No.
So how can you say that it's going to be
Well,
less
general warehouse use.
overland trucks?
Yeah.
I mean, you see quite a number
Yeah.
of them coming off the interstate,
Right.
the longer sleeper cabs with the longer trailer as well.
Right.
So you may have a combination of, I don't know if it's a WB60
Yeah.
with the shorter cab and longer trailer. I just think you're using the shortest vehicle there is probably not the most conservative approach or even the average approach.
If I do run the WB67 and it encroaches on the oncoming lane, I guess the question would be how much of that would be acceptable? if
I think
were
the
to
big
include-
issue here for the board is they are modifying and widening the curb at the intersection, which was our concern. This will help. So you've addressed my concerns with this. Again, I would take a closer look at the larger trucks as
Could run
well.
that as well.
And I'm guessing the county's gonna ask the same question.
Sure, and we'll coordinate with the county as well, and any changes we make here, we'll pass through the engineering review to
And,
the satisfaction of Mr. Cangiano.
I'm sure the board's got a comment on the sidewalk, but I got the full-size survey out. I got my scale.
Yep.
And I just want, for the board's knowledge, there is about over 12 feet from the curb line at the narrowest point from the existing curb line to the right-of-way in your frontage of your property. So 12 feet would be ample space to do a guide rail and a sidewalk.
I would agree, only relative to I was talking about the mature trees that are in that 12-foot span, they're centered in the span.
True.
That's
But those mature trees, you will be disturbing them, and the root structure will be disturbed because you're about 15 feet of them, and your limited disturbance, I just looked at as well, is right up to the property line, which, from my scale,
Mhm.
the center of the tree is about 5 feet from the property line. So you will be impacting the drip line and the root structure.
Right, we're not putting the wall there, but that grading is
You're grading down,
yeah.
and your
Mhm.
geogrid reinforcement for a 15, 16-foot high wall.
It's a top-down wall, won't be a grid, that'll probably be a top-down wall. Just engineer
Mm.
like either soldier beam and lagging, or I think my opinion that this wall, like what you see today, right, we talked about the gridded wall, in the areas where we have the allowable disturbance, where we don't, I would think we would do a top-down type wall or a gravity wall, something that would be
Well, even if
less
it's a gravity
impactful.
wall, you'll still have
2.5
reinforcement,
times, right.
soldier, reinforcement back into the soil.
Right.
Regardless,
Yeah,
it's
I understand.
the
I
trees,
thought-
I don't know that, how you can argue the tree root structure is not gonna be disturbed in that area.
Within this stretch right here, what I'm pointing to basically the northern portion making its way down. Once we get down to the tightest point, where the narrowest point is, then that one potentially, but not. I don't
Right, and that's where
believe-
your three
yeah.
trees are. I think there's 3 trees that are within 5 feet of the property line, and the 4th, 5th, and 6th tree, more to the north, won't be affected, but
Right.
you have, it gets wider and wider, in excess of 20 feet from the curb. So,
And again,
just what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say is there is ample room to put the sidewalk in.
I agree,
And
good.
also, the right-of-way continues across, you had mentioned something about there is no right-of-way on the funeral parlor property, but it does. You still have approximately 10 feet or more, 12 feet from the travelway from the shoulder. There is right-of-way beyond the travelway in
Yeah.
front of the funeral parlor.
Yeah.
Just for the record.
And just to supplement that, if their structures weren't out in the right-of-way proper, in terms of the physical walls that are out in the front, I would say that room would be greater and be more available for the sidewalk. What would happen is, if you go with the true travelway proper, then that whole sidewalk would need to be curbed, in my opinion, rather than if you...
I don't know that the discussion is having you extend the sidewalk in front of the funeral parlor.
No,
No, it's not.
no.
It's not? Okay. So you have ample room in
Oh.
excess of 12
Yeah.
feet to 12 feet along your whole frontage.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Relative to the other items I talked about, were just our concerns in terms of what it'll look like when it's done.
Okay. That was the main point that I wanted to bring across. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions by members of the board on this testimony at this time?
I have one. The fire pump house that you proposed,
Mhm.
that's gonna be, is that gonna be in the road on the truck
No.
circulation? Is that
It's
just off
actually
the road?
just off the edge of the road.
All right,
What you see right now is basically there's an area where we're sloping
Right.
down. And within that same limited disturbance, we would basically build a retaining wall there to support that at the elevation of the road proper.
so it wouldn't
exceed-
affect the fire truck getting around the building?
No, not at all. No.
And just to go back to your original, not original, but earlier tonight, the reasoning you can't rotate the building towards Parsippany Road is because you'd have to raise the building so much?
Well, 2 components, right? Raising the building up would then put the truck traffic adjacent. I'm just going to go back to that drawing, if you don't mind.
Yeah, the red and the orange,
The
or
red and
red and yellow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if the truck traffic were here, so 2 things came up in discussion. One was the funeral home.
Mhm.
They asked what our impact would be. And we said, based on flipping the building, we were able to lower the parking lot, eliminate the trucks coming across, and basically head first. Their maneuvers would head straight towards the funeral home, more or less just going in a southbound direction along the front of the building. Actually, I'll go back to the rendering. So if you can imagine this entire building being shifted down.
Uh-huh.
Right now, we're about 188 feet from the property line with the building with this configuration. It's even more if you think of where the truck docks are, being further back another 70 feet. But the building in the other arrangement is 95 feet from the property line. So we doubled the distance the building was from the school side of the building. The truck aisle that would be on the east side would basically be running straight down towards the funeral home.
Mhm.
So their question was, what about lights and how, I've got people here, it's a sensitive issue obviously for the operations. So we said, well, in this case, we were able to bring the whole building down vertically, with this flip, and also then have that wall be a protective measure, so you will not see headlights
Okay.
from the funeral home.
All right, thank you.
Other members of the board with questions on this testimony? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to ask now if there are members of the public who have questions on this witness's testimony at this time. If you come forward, identify yourself. Now is the time to ask questions only of this witness. You will have an opportunity later to speak either in opposition or in favor of this, or to bring things before this board that we need to know before we make a decision. So right now is your opportunity to ask questions on what this gentleman just spent time telling us what their position is and what the engineering is. Please come up, identify yourself.
Right here. There.
The counselor you can use that microphone there. Again, this is just questions, so identify yourself, please, and your address.
Okay. Hello, I'm Linda Wins. I'm a Lake Parsippany resident. My address is 132 Marcella Road in Parsippany, Lake Parsippany.
Okay, and you have questions of this witness?
Yes. My question is, well, I have a couple. Regarding the exhaust and air pollution with the building, the way that they're planning it, just my concern for the air quality with all of the trucks, the exhaust, if they have, gas and oil, I don't know, like how they're maintaining the trucks, just with the developing brains and immune systems of these children that are really not so far from the building. My other question is, they're calling it a warehouse, but what is the nature of the products or what they're doing with the trucks coming in and out? What's being dispersed or transported? And then also, I couldn't think of the word, but are the employees of the truck, the people who are the truckers, are they employees of the trucking company that are credentialed and like criminal checks, or are you having these transient, drivers coming in and coming out? You don't know where they're coming from.
Counselor,
You don't know.
You going to
what
answer
their
that, or
nature
is the witness going to answer that?
Well, respectfully, those are not questions for this witness. I guess our position would be that with regard to air pollution, there would be a requirement in the resolution that the applicant comply with all federal, state, and county laws and local laws, which would include laws regarding emitting pollution in the air. Because the governing body is permitting this use at this location, I would argue that would be indicative that there isn't a concern in that regard. And we are not seeking a variance in regards to the position of the building. The position of the building does not require any relief. So that's how we would answer that question. With regard to the nature of the products, I think that the prior testimony is this is a small warehouse in the context of warehouses. It's about 140,000 square feet, which in the context of warehouses really caters to the local community. It's not a regional center. And again, I don't know what's going to be stored there. It's a warehouse that would service local businesses in the area. And again, there would be a requirement in the resolution that all laws be complied with. And with regard to the trucking companies, I don't know, but again, everything would have to, the operations of the place would have to be legal in all regards. If not, then there would be a violation of the operations, and the applicant or owner of the property would be cited accordingly.
All right, that's the answer that we've got at the moment.
Thank you.
All right, other questions that intended to be asked of the engineer who presented testimony here?
My name is Pat Wins, 106 Harrison Road.
I'm unable to hear you.
Oh, okay, Pat Wins, 106 Harrison Road. And I'm wondering, what is the length of these trucks that they're going to have? Just with the traffic there in the morning on Parsippany Road, I can't imagine with the amount of trucks that they're going to be having, how that's going to affect the people here in Parsippany trying to get around, especially since they built that project over at Lanadex, and when those apartments and houses started filling up, what is the traffic going to be like here in our area?
So we have a traffic, it's an excellent question. We do have a traffic expert who's going to provide testimony in a moment, and the traffic expert will address traffic matters, and I would suggest respectfully that that would be a question for the traffic expert. If he doesn't address your concerns, you should come back and ask him that question. That's not a question for Mr. Cote.
Okay,
All right?
all right.
Thank you.
Other members have questions on the witness's testimony that we've just heard tonight? Mr. Homiak?
Nicholas Homiak, from Lake Hiawatha.
You have a street address?
Yeah, 26 Oneida Avenue. What is the exact type of warehouse? The type of warehouse, the exact type?
So, Mr. Inglesino, sorry, Inglesino, I'm struggling with the start.
Inglesino.
No,
I've been called worse.
I had a stutter issue. My apologies.
So, Mr. Homiak, this is the civil engineer. He's really not able to discuss operations or the type of, I'm not sure what you mean by the type of warehouse, but it would be a warehouse that would operate as a warehouse and would be subject to all of the state, federal laws and would have to operate in accordance with them.
Well, there's three types of warehouses, so I would think that the expert should know which one. For example, distribution facility, major, fulfillment center, large, and last mile fulfillment facility or station. Those are the three types of
Right,
warehouses.
so I would defer to Ms. Winter, who in the redevelopment plan addressed the type of warehouse. I can't recall what it can be or what it can't be, but I know that was in there. I know it cannot be a fulfillment center.
So we do specifically define warehouses. Let me pull that up for you. I'll read it out. Shall mean a building utilized primarily for storage and distribution of goods, which may also include accessory logistics services such as labeling, breaking bulk cardboard boxes into manageable packages, inventory control and management, light assembly, order entry and fulfillment, packaging, pick and pack, price marking, and ticketing and transportation arrangement. This definition does not include fulfillment centers.
Could you tell me how many employees will work here?
The number of employees are based on the overall plan. One second. So going back to our site plan. Just going to put up the exhibit here.
First of all, we can't represent the exact number of employees that a tenant may have, so that's not something we can do, but we do have parking requirements, correct, Mr. Proty?
That is correct. So our
And
parking,
they'd be coming from the region, from Parsippany. What traffic pattern will they use to to get to this warehouse?
Well, again, I would defer traffic questions for the traffic expert.
Okay. Is there a particular reason why the stormwater issue, in my opinion, was sort of brushed over?
I'm not aware of what you mean by brushed over, but very particular, I mean, I'm gonna make a
It was
statement.
hardly
Let me,
mentioned
then
at
let me-
all, the last session, but you did bring up something about stormwater. For example, you say the platforms, or the trucking platforms for the warehouse will be lower.
Correct. Overall, the project is designed, just for reference, if you're asking for a specific question, or answer, the stormwater design is in accordance with the new standards that have been adopted by the NJDEP. In particular, the new standards require us to analyze both what was referred to as the current storm intensity, plus the storm intensity for the year 2100, which is 75 or so years from now, for what the DEP considers to be the increase associated with global warming increases in precipitation. That increase is incorporated into our design, and it meets those standards, as well as the water quality standards that DEP dictates for all vehicular surface areas. So if that answers your question in terms of the meeting the standards that the DEP has newly defined, the answer is yes.
And Mr. Cody, well, I think your colleague did give extensive stormwater testimony, and I think, and I recall his testimony being that from a stormwater perspective, that this new design is a significant improvement over the current condition. Is that right?
That's correct. You currently have a site with literally no treatment relative to stormwater runoff for all the asphalt you see out there today. This system incorporates the treatment, also the rate control, all, again, in accordance with the new standards.
And there was testimony at the last hearing that this project, in this condition, with the treatment of stormwater, will be an improvement with regard to flow out to Lake Parsippany.
That is correct.
Okay.
Are you aware of the stormwater questionnaire to verify everything that your theory is alleging?
And I'm not sure what you're referring to in your hand, but I will state that if it's a DEP document, then we're in compliance with that. We comply with the low-impact development regulations, and we comply with the DEP stormwater quality and water quantity requirements for the property.
The water, though, will run down toward the loading docks, correct?
The water travels across the pavement through, then into water quality treatment devices, and then into water quantity control devices before it's discharged.
And that's currently not the case, I
That's
assume.
currently not the case. There's a small stormwater basin out there right now with a rock line channel at its base, and there's no water quality measures within that basin or on the site today. We have a combination of porous pavement, infiltration, and water quality treatment from all paved areas for what you don't see out there today.
Are you familiar with what warehouses look like after they're in operation for periods of time?
I'm not familiar with your documents.
This is a photograph, if the board is interested.
An objection on the basis of relevance, Mr. Chairman.
Well, it's relevant because when the water runs downhill, you have these hydraulic pumps and they leak oil. They leak hydraulic fluid. And warehouses are notorious for trash. So that's all going to be in your stormwater your stormwater dream.
But to the point you just made, that's why we impose water quality measures to address that runoff specifically.
But the outcome is more important than the...
Correct, absolutely. And that's the purpose of these devices. That's the purpose of the design, specifically for the outcome.
Are you aware that when you increase the impervious surface, and the impervious surface is going to be increased, according to the Highlands, you have to mitigate other areas in the town within a distant to some kind of green infrastructure. There has to be a matching mitigation.
We met with the Highlands, and the Highlands looked at this and evaluated on their behalf relative to the site. The letter and the information we provided to the Highlands was in line with our discussion with them, so the Highlands will make that determination.
But there is now no consistency review from the Highlands.
It's under review right now.
but it's not complete.
It's under review by the.
Well, it's, any approval would be subject to
Yeah,
that
that's right.
review, as it would be as we would be subject to any outside agency review.
And the Highlands will hold us to the same standards that the DEP has as far as the water quality and water quantity.
And you don't agree that you should be waiting until that review is complete, until we,
This board, if this board it makes it a condition of our approval. It's a condition. If we don't meet that condition, then we're not approved.
all right. Okay.
Thank
Other
you.
members of the public have questions of this witness on this testimony at this time?
Mary Parsippany, former resident of Parsippany, unfortunately, but it is what it is. I wasn't going to ask this question, but you say that you are complying to all the stormwater regulations, that the Highlands Council, the new ones and everything else?
The Highlands.
Okay, that's really a concern of mine. I kind of hope that you are using the green stormwater management system for that property. But it's more than that property. It's about the trucks that are going to be traveling, the tractor-trailer trucks that are going to be traveling
You
on
asking a
Parsippany Road.
question of this
Okay.
witness?
Okay, that was this. And my concerns are that the number of tractor trailers that are going to be pulling in there, coming off Parsippany Road, will affect the stormwater going into Lake Parsippany, because Parsippany Road's storm drains enter into the lake, the
So,
west side.
So again, I respectfully, this is a time to ask questions.
Yeah.
And there will be an opportunity for you to state concerns, but this is a time to just
Okay.
ask questions of the witness,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, so I just want to,
I can't ask the question that these tractor trailers, I mean, we're coming on the road and it's raining or whatever, that water is not going to be as pure as the water that you're going to propose is going to come from your storm drain system. It's going to be coming from the road storm drain system. And that's a major concern to us. And has that ever been addressed by anyone in the township or anything else? Or the fact that this is just a little bit too big for the quality of water in our lake? That's what I want to know, the effect of the quality of water, storm drain water.
Yeah.
That's entering into the lake through the Everett Road Basin and all the other basins.
We're providing water quality on our site.
I can't hear you.
We're providing water quality on our site. We don't address the public roads that are off of our site, Route 80, any of the other travel roads that are within the area of this property.
And you don't consider that to be a concern?
The county is responsible, and the township and the interstate highway are responsible for those components.
And then the other thing of it is I didn't understand, when it came to this warehouse classification, the warehouse classification, on what one exactly are you? I didn't understand which one you are when it's by square footage.
I think Ms. Winters had already provided what the classifications were relative to, we're not a fulfillment center, if that's what you're concerned.
we fall within what's permitted under the redevelopment plan.
So it's 1,400 square feet of warehouse and 50...
It's about 140,000 square feet.
Oh. On the plans, I thought it said 145, but that's okay. And then you have another 5,000 square feet of office?
Within the 140,000 square feet.
Within that,
is the 5,000
you don't
square feet.
add, you don't
Correct.
add it
Yeah,
to
the plans,
extra.
the plans call out 140,031 square feet for the warehouse. 5,000 within that is the office. The 135 would be the remaining warehouse area.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other members of the public have questions of this witness on this testimony at this time? Come forward, identify yourself, and ask your question, please.
Hi, Anne Marie Judice, 101 Marmora Road. Can you show us where on your map you're going to put the water treatment place?
Yeah. So I'm going to put up on the drawing here the grading and drainage plan, or the drainage plan.
And then the second question is, can you just keep the water
Can you
on your
speak up,
property
please?
and use it for your fire suppression? Can you keep the water on your
Absolutely.
property and use it for the fire suppression?
We've not explored that option. I'm not sure if this had been labeled previously. I don't see an annotation on it, so I'm going to introduce it as A11.
This is
A12.
A12.
Sorry, I apologize. So for the board's purposes.
Is that part of the package?
This is part of the existing package that was already submitted. Do you want to label it as an exhibit, or just under the fact that it was
Why don't you
the...
just tell us what
Sure.
the number is,
This is drawing number CG 102.
CG 503?
102. CG 102 is sheet number 9 of 20 in this set. It was part of the original package that was submitted to the... CG 102. So that's our name to mark it as an exhibit?
no, you don't need to mark it.
So there's a combination of water quality measures provided on the site. With respect to the parking for the employee parking, these hatched areas are all porous pavement. Porous pavement is one of the green infrastructure methodologies that the DEP has adopted in the new set of regulations. Below the actual loading dock area, there's an infiltration zone with respect to a infiltration bed being created. The infiltration bed allows for water quality treatment. It's actually another one of the green infrastructure options that the DEP has adopted. The actual basins themselves, if you look at the basin to the north and the basin to the northwest, excuse me. My orientation here is a little off. Well, for everyone to see it. These are bioretention basins. They all have a filter layer at the bottom, and they're drained as a water quality measure before the storm exits for water quality discharge off the first runoff that comes off of the pavement, the items we were discussing before about the vehicular surface areas. So bioretention, porous pavement, and infiltration are the three major categories of water quality provided on the site.
And what will you do to keep mosquitoes down?
These are not basins with wet basins. These are basins that evacuate within 72 hours of their design. That's a DEP standard to prevent mosquito populations.
Now, if the place decides to use drones for deliveries, where would drones
Speculation.
take off from?
No, I couldn't answer that question.
I think we'd have to come back to the board. We're not quite there yet.
That I wouldn't know.
We're not giving them permission for drones at the moment. Yeah. Any other members of the public have a question of this witness on this testimony? Please come forward and identify yourself and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Christine Espinosa, 131 Marmora Road. I'm a little nervous, so forgive me. I'm not familiar with the water tanks and the fire pumps and stuff like that, the fire pump house. Are you able to just educate us a bit on how that works? Does that do it on its own? Does it have a signal about for fires? How do the firefighters, do they get involved with that? Are they trained for, well, that's not for you, but how does it work?
Yeah, so a fire pump and a fire tank are providing supplemental water supply to the existing water lines that are out there today. The water lines today, when tested, the amount of flow that's available in them is insufficient to provide fire suppression. Basically, they have a code, they have the building code, fire code, subcode they have to comply with. So in order to do that, the tank acts as a storage supply, and then the pump actually then provides a drawdown from the tank to feed the building with the water pressure and the volume necessary to provide that suppression. So think of it as a supplemental system. The fire department / fire subcode official have to review everything and approve everything. The purpose of the board here is that we're going to locate that as an accessory structure on the site, but it's still subject to entire review by the building department and the fire subcode official.
Okay, so God forbid, there's a fire going on, the smoke turns on, signals the sprinklers to go off. Once they go off, is that the signal to the pump to release that water?
Yeah, this system is tied to the fire suppression system within the building, so any drawdown for fire suppression in the building will come from the tank, and it also uses supply from the system, but it's predominantly volume from the tank.
And how many gallons are in the tank?
I don't have the calculation. I know the fire subcode official will have a number. It's a 27-foot diameter. I wish I could give you the number. I don't know off the top of my head. 30-foot high tank.
But it'll comply with the building code.
Right.
Because I'm just worried, like, God forbid, something happens, with everything that's surrounding it, the school, the funeral home, the Petersons, like, can it handle
To your
it?
point, that's exactly why we need it.
Yeah.
Because if we built it without it, there would be an insufficient, inadequate supply system. So it's exactly to your point, it addresses the concern that it provides an adequate system that doesn't exist there today.
Okay. Sorry, I just have... Okay, and for the widening of the curb, because, like, every time I pass it and I look at it, I'm like, how are these trucks supposed to make these turns? How are they safely going to turn in and out? Like, how's that dynamic is going to work? And then Parsippany Road is just so narrow. Like, I don't understand how they're going to adequately make those turns safely for everyone.
Yeah. The lanes you have out there today, the 2 lanes going south and 2 lanes going north, on the southbound leg, they make the right turn. What we were talking about earlier with Mr. Cangiano was allowing, if you look at there's kind of an old the old Parsippany Road has an old configuration. So that curb return was not probably designed for this to be as a public road in terms of the way it's set up. This is actually a public access easement across the property. So this widening that we talked about before, the clipping of this curb line here was to address that turning maneuver that we just talked about earlier.
And are you guys going to do anything for the turns? That wouldn't make any sense now that I'm thinking about it. But for like the Petersons who specifically have to go in and out, like that's their point of coming in and out of their own home. And these trucks are just going to be blocking them.
They'll be controlled by the signal. They won't be blocking them for the purpose of getting in or getting out. A truck queued up at the light will have a turn to be able to get out, and then that same light will serve the same purpose, the same signal.
Okay, and then also, I don't know if this question pertains to you, but for demolition, like, I don't know, can I ask you a question on that, or?
Well, yeah, you can ask the question. I have a feeling it's not going to be for this witness, but you can certainly ask the question.
Okay, and if not, you can let me know
Yeah,
which
of
witness.
course.
But, what kind of demolition is it going to be? What are you going to use to demolish these buildings?
Yeah.
So that's not something that is within the planning board's purview. The planning board is here to review plans for the redevelopment. The demolition of existing buildings is something that is handled through the construction department.
It has to comply with the construction.
There's a permit that has to be issued, but that's not something that's within the purview of the board.
Okay, so it's just construction of the town?
Construction department of the town.
It's fairly well outlined and regulated by the construction department.
Okay. And this is all planned off. I know I heard a little something with the WD 67. I guess I'm assuming that's just the length and how big the trucks are.
Mm-hmm.
So these plans are made for larger trucks in mind, like and it's 20 loading docks as well, right?
Correct.
No more than that.
That's correct.
And then, but they're specifically for larger trucks.
They're sized for whichever type vehicle. So the internal circulation is based upon those truck sizes. And then the comment we just had a little earlier, Ms. Cangiano, was coordinating with the county the type of trucks that we show coming off of Parsippany Road onto Lanedex.
Okay. I think, oh, and then you said a top-down wall, type.
Yeah.
So that's just the type of wall, but the material, I believe in the last meeting, it was eco stone.
That's so two different things. The wall that's built along the east side of the site is a wall being developed in a cut where the soils are being cut down. That's what you call a top-down wall, is how they build it, basically, so that you can excavate out the soils. On the east side of the site, west side, my apology, the eco stone is a sound barrier wall, and only for the sound barrier proper.
Okay. All right, that's it.
Any other members of the public have questions of this witness on this testimony at this time? Please come forward and identify yourself. You can anybody who wants to queue up for questions can sit in this bench right here.
So can I just ask who each one of you are, because I'm not familiar with
Ma'am, yeah, sit down, speak into the mic.
about this. I only found out about what was going on, today at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Sorry, I was choking a little bit. Okay. So I only found out about this at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. So I'm just asking, I live on 16 Allentown Road. My name is Kaylee McIntosh.
I'm
And
sorry, repeat your name?
Kaylee McIntosh. And I'm just asking who each one of you are, so I'm familiar with the council. Like, are you politicians? Are you members of the board? I mean, I know who you are, but I'm not familiar with who each one of you are.
Well, no, I mean, if you can keep it quick. So we're a mixture of people that are, nominated here, so they're unpaid. I'm on town council.
Okay,
Then we
that's
have
what I'm
people
asking.
from traffic, and we have people from our engineering, and we have a clerk. So it's a
Okay,
mixture
perfect.
of people, but for the most part, these are unpaid people up here.
Okay,
So just
well,
to be clear.
thank you
That's
very
a big
much.
question. People ask that, yeah?
Okay, that's exactly what I was asking.
And a lawyer.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
They're also from town.
Yes.
So I
Okay.
think that they're all from Parsippany.
So with the exception of the professionals.
Correct.
Okay, so you are a professional?
Correct, I'm a planner.
Okay. Just because I am covering everybody as far as all the way down from the EPA to every person that represents us in Congress, okay? I'm going to give everybody Governor Murphy's phone number. Everybody here can contact him by text and give him your...
Mr.
If
Chairman.
you hold on, this moment, in our usual way of doing things in an application,
Right.
the applicant provides testimony on the portions of their application.
Right.
This specific time is meant for questions to this particular
It is.
individual.
It is.
And the other things that you're getting into can be part of a presentation made at the end.
That's fine. That's fine. There's no problem. Okay, so my question to you is, I'm an engineer as well.
I need you to speak into the mic.
Okay. I'm an engineer as well, okay? I have 61 pages here. This is my education, okay? These are all my degrees, certifications.
Mr. Chairman.
Everything.
Are you asking a question or
So,
making a case?
basically, your building, with your proposed blueprint and plans and all this.
Microphone, please.
Okay. Excuse me. How far away from the school did you put this?
The building is approximately 188 feet from the property line, from the westerly property line.
Do you know that the regulation says that it has to be more than 1,000 feet?
No,
Yes, it does.
obviously, I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, well, I am.
I'm talking, by the way, relative to this board's ordinances and what we're reviewing relative to them is what we're prepared for the plan that's here.
Okay, well, right now, I'm gonna just let you know. Do you know about the carbon budget that goes into effect in 2 years?
No,
Okay, there's a net neutral carbon budget. I don't know who worked up the revenue that this is supposed to project, but you will be
This is a
looking at
question.
negative $300,000, basically. All right? And that's only with 6 trucks.
I apologize. Is it a question for my engineering component, or is it for something else? Like carbon credits is not within the jurisdiction of my, or not within the expertise of my testimony. Carbon credits are not part of that.
Well, what is part of it is that you are on a EPA Superfund site, basically, and that land and soil is toxic.
That's nothing, none of the documentation we have represents that in any way, shape, or form. So I'm not sure where you're getting your information from, but that kind of conjecture or statement, I have no statement.
Mr. Chairman, again, if there is an opportunity for Ms. McIntosh to make a case at the end of the proceedings, again, this is just an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant based on of this witness based on his testimony, and I respectfully submit that these questions are far afield from that.
Yes. Sustained.
You know what?
Do you have a specific question to this witness on this testimony?
No, that's okay. No. You know what? I'm not going to waste your time, especially after mine being wasted hearing about sidewalks when there's a lot bigger and other things that need to be addressed, so.
You can't do that now.
When do I get to make my case?
If you wish to provide a case against that after the planning testimony, there'll be an opportunity for the public to speak their pieces of whatever sort, make a case.
Well, it's not a case, it's just a proposal, because right now, you guys are looking at, with taxes, a negative $400,000 loss, and that is just based on a net neutral carbon.
I'm sorry, we know nothing about what you're talking about.
Well, you should, because
We
this has
have
to do with
no
global
knowledge
warming
of
greenhouse. These are
This
huge things.
may be a legal thing that our attorney can inform us about.
You can, so just to kind of back up a second, this is the civil engineer providing testimony regarding sidewalks, building configuration, fire water tank suppression, truck turning, sound barriers, and stormwater management. So your questions, hold on a second, your questions have to pertain to the testimony he's provided, which a lot of the members of the public have done that, okay? There's also a traffic expert who will be testifying next, I believe, as was indicated by counsel. So if there's any testimony or questions regarding traffic, that'll be the next witness. Then there'll be an architect. So if there's any questions regarding the look of the building, the design of the building, that will be for the architect. And then there will be a professional planner who will give a summary of how the project complies with the redevelopment plan and the ordinance established therein. And there's going to be a couple of requests for variance relief.
Right.
When that is done, all of the members of the public will be given the opportunity to come up and say how they feel about the project generally. Okay?
Right.
They'll be able to give their opinion. You'll be sworn in, and you'll be able to provide your own testimony. Okay? So we're not there yet.
Can I ask a question to you then?
Sure.
Just because, I'm autistic, by the way, just so you know, But if there is certain barriers that stand in between even getting to those points that you guys should be more aware of right now, wouldn't you rather, be aware than to go all the way down the line and waste everybody's time to get to that point and then it doesn't work out?
The applicant is presenting his case to the board. The
Right.
board is listening to testimony.
Right.
There has been no decisions made. If
Right.
you feel that there is a topic that you would like to educate the board on, when you give your testimony, you will have the opportunity to do that. But right now, counsel kind of has the floor, and he's presenting his witnesses to which you are entitled to cross-examine. That is the proceeding in which we're operating, and similar to a court of law. So this is a quasi-judicial proceeding.
Right.
Okay? So you'll be given the opportunity to present any information you feel is relevant and try to convince the board that your information is relevant and consequential and persuasive, but we're just not there yet in the process.
I understand.
Fair enough?
Yeah, I understand. Okay. I was just trying to save everybody some time by, becoming more aware of actual guidelines and legislation that is very important to follow. And potential better revenue streams for use of the area by grants.
You'll have the opportunity to make your case at the appropriate time.
Okay. Perfect. Excuse me then.
All right, are you finished for now?
Oh, yeah, I
All right,
obviously.
we have other members of the public who'd like to ask
Yeah,
questions of
That's no
the...
problem. I'm just putting this back together real quick, if you don't mind, so I could be organized and not go. Thank you. Is there a way you could give a copy out of this? So, I mean, are these for the public to have a schematic, a blueprint? Or no, we're not allowed to have it?
These are exhibits, public document.
Okay.
You would be able to find them with the clerk of the board.
Okay, so I could go when office hours are
Yes.
open? Okay, no problem.
Now, if you would,
I think my question is regarding traffic, so I can ask it and then they can address it, or they
we just pass it like
throw it
that?
out there?
we're going to have the traffic expert come up in a few moments, and there'll be a discussion. Do you have a question of this witness of this testimony?
Hi, Julia Peterson, 25 Old Parsippany Road. Are there any plans to put a sidewalk down the access road?
Not at this time.
Not at this time, okay. Oh, wait a minute. And the revised curve cuts through the town park, right?
It's within the right-of-way of the town.
But it cuts off the
Not-
end of the park.
Yeah, if you consider the curb line the parks,
Yeah.
or versus the right-of-way, it's the park within the right-of-way.
Okay.
All right. Another question from a member of the public. Please come up and identify yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Irina Clem, 129 Marmora Road. And
What's your last name?
Irina Clem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I have a question about this sound wall. Can you give us more information about it? Because the reason we just bought the house and we were looking for some nice, quiet sleeping area. Yeah, and I'm concerned about trucks, they will load it, it's
So-
gonna be noise, what kind of
Yeah.
wall?
So the wall is a 16-foot high, in this case, what's called eco stone, so it has the appearance of a stone finish. There was an image provided in the last testimony. And I think
Yeah, I think that if you were to go onto Parsippany's website for the planning board, at the last hearing, which was May 20th, there was extensive testimony from the sound expert that would address all questions regarding sound.
And the office hours, it's gonna be on the weekends or what time the truck is,
Yeah.
I don't wanna hear at the 5 PM that the truck will load in, so.
The office hours are what permitted by the township, whatever's permitted by the township.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Other members of the public have questions of this witness on this testimony? If you can direct it to strictly that.
My name is Sorky Lampy, and I live at 51 Allentown Road.
I apologize, can you repeat your name for me? Okay.
My name is Sorky Lampy, and I live at 51 Allentown Road. And I'm very concerned about the fact that you might not be building a sidewalk because you have people commuting back and forth from New York. They get off the bus on Route 46 and they walk down Parsippany Road.
This is, you're phrasing this as a question to the engineer.
Well, what was the final resolution? Are you building a sidewalk or not?
I think what we said was, well, first of all, we'll defer to the board. What we've offered the board is that, because the Parsippany Road is a county road, So the county has jurisdiction over what happens on Parsippany Road, not the board. But if the board's desire is for us to do a sidewalk on Parsippany Road, we will go to the county and we will make the request. And if the county says, yes, it's okay to do the sidewalk, and that's what the board wants, then we will do the sidewalk. But we can only do what the county will permit on Parsippany Road, because that is a county road, if that's one option. So I think earlier in the meeting, we provided the board with some options. We certainly want to be, cooperative, but I think there was a lot of testimony about what the implications of a sidewalk would be, but we leave that to the board to determine what the board's preference is. We're willing to work with the board, however the board wants to go on that question, understanding that ultimately it's a county determination.
Also, this was sort of a question about the engineer that was here 2 weeks ago.
In the mic.
A question about the engineer that was here 2 weeks ago that said, that the trucks will not go beep, 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 they'll go shush, shush, shush. Now, I find this hard to believe. I used to be a commercial lines underwriter, and we insured contractors' equipment, trailers, straight jobs, motor truck cargo, and warehouses for dry goods. And I'm very familiar with these vehicles, and they go beep, beep, beep. And I think that you just tell us things just to get this warehouse approved. And so, he's not here, so I have to ask the question.
Well, again, I think you're referring to the testimony of the sound expert, not the civil engineer. And I think that the testimony was, as I recall, was that about a third of the vehicles would go beep, beep, beep. And about a third would go shush, shush, shush. And about a third wouldn't do anything. That was the testimony. The testimony was also that as new trucks come online and with technology and so forth, that the beep, beep, beep is going out of style. It's becoming antiquated. That was the testimony. That was the testimony of the sound engineer. The other testimony of the sound engineer was that this site is well within the parameters of sound emission from the site as regulated by the state. The state regulates sound, and that this noise emanating from this site is well within those parameters, even without the sound wall during the daytime.
Yeah, well, I live on Allentown Road at the corner of Keyport, the side of Keyport that's close to the school. And I don't understand what type of material Echo Stone is.
It's a plastic material that's shaped like stone look appearance on the outside, and it has a density that the sound engineer evaluated for the emanation of sounds and the attenuation of sounds. So it's a product, it's an established commercial product that's used for this, and this is the purpose that it serves, is to basically create that barrier. So to Mr. Inglesino's point, the sound engineer used that in his calculations. He did it without and with it, and the fact that he met the code or exceeded the code with the use of the wall was part of his testimony.
Well, what percentage of sound will that remove?
I can't testify to specifics, but I know that his testimony was very specific about being within the guidelines, both in daytime and nighttime, and actually during the daytime, if I remember correctly, his daytime.
Yeah, and I think
close to the nighttime.
Mr. Cote is not a sound expert, but I would invite you to look at the website. All of that testimony is there to be seen and heard.
Which website is that?
Just log on to the Parsippany Planning Board, and the video from the Planning Board meeting on May 20th will appear, and you just click on it, and that will provide you with a video of the proceeding.
So there won't be any sound experts? There won't be any sound experts here tonight?
No, the sound expert has already testified and asked and answered all questions from the public who were here for that testimony. What I'm saying is that you can log on to the Parsippany Planning Board website and review that video of that testimony.
Mm-hmm. I'm just curious, is this the last meeting that's open to the public?
I don't know yet. We're still
Unlikely.
Pardon?
Unlikely that this is the
Oh,
last
unlikely.
meeting.
That's good news. Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other members of the public have questions of this witness, on this testimony at this time? Mr. Homiak, do you have new questions?
I gotta get it all later when I can. Do I have to state my name and my address again?
Please, for the record.
Okay, it's Christine Espinosa, 131 Marmora Road. For this, the sound barrier wall for the school, like, how are you guys going to secure it in that it doesn't collapse while the children are outside or anything like
Yeah,
that?
It's just like we spoke earlier, all construction is subject to the construction department's and building code rules and regulations in the state. So structurally, the wall itself has to comply with state standards. So it's to your point is, the board doesn't regulate, but ultimately the town regulates that through the building department.
Mm-hmm. And are you guys planning to cut down all those mature trees that are there?
No, any tree that can be retained under the grading plan that we have and the disturbances will be retained. And we've added plantings based upon the last discussion we had with the Board of Education as well.
And this might not be you, might be the sound engineer, but you work with the sound engineer for the wall, right? Like, because you're planning all the...
The layout was coordinated with the sound engineer.
So, do you have any knowledge whatsoever on the sound barrier, like it being 16 feet high? Like, would that be high enough for the high frequencies, like...
Objection, Mr. Cody is not, that's a question for the sound expert that has already testified and addressed that point. Mr. Cody's not the person to address that.
Well, didn't he testify that the sound barrier and all the other things that you're doing would reduce the sound to the point where you would comply with all township regulations?
He did. That was the testimony of the sound expert. My point is just that Mr. Cody is not the person to address that question to. But that testimony is in the record by the sound expert.
The public would like to know.
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Yep.
Nick Homiak, 2609 Avenue, Lake Hiawatha. It says here buffer zones, this is the Highlands manual, shall be 300 meters, roughly 1,000 feet. It can be office space, employee parking, or a green belt between warehouse distribution and sensitive areas, housing, schools, daycares, playgrounds, blah, blah, blah. Show us the 1,000 feet buffer from that warehouse to the closest.
So, Mr. Homiak, I'm not sure what you're reading from, but Mr. Cote has provided testimony with regards to compliance with the town redevelopment plan, and as we've already advised the board and you, the plan is under review by the Highlands Council staff for a determination, and that determination would be a condition of approval unless it is received before the board casts a vote. It's just like any other outside agency permit and approval.
Mr. Homiak, we are determining if they are meeting our master plan requirements. One of the points in giving them approval is that they agree to comply with all other state regulations. This is completely out of our purview, completely. We have nothing to do with that. The State Highlands Commission, however, may come in and say, we do or we do not think you comply. If they comply, it goes forward. If it doesn't comply, it doesn't happen.
And all due respect, Chairman, my question was, can you show us the 1,000 foot 4-foot buffer on that diagram.
Now, your question presumes something that none of us knows to be true or in fact. And so, as the chairman indicated, that is not a standard that is before the board, and therefore I'm directing the witness not to answer the question.
Now, will this warehouse roof be solar ready, or will it just,
I think under the current code, a portion has to be solar ready.
and how will that affect the runoff from the roof?
It doesn't. The roof is already impervious. It's considered clean water coming off the roof. It will not affect water quality in any way.
Will there be electric vehicle charging stations installed for the local? You said I believe you said the part of this warehouse will be supplying local businesses. So will those local vehicles eventually be, as soon as possible, converted to electric?
I don't understand your question in terms of relevance, but I will say that the site is providing EV parking spaces in accordance with the new regulations that have been adopted.
The question was electric vehicle charging stations.
Are provided on the site, correct. We have a total of 4 EV parking spaces in accordance with the regulations.
And they're for the local?
That's just for the employees. That's
The employees, not the delivery trucks?
well, if a delivery truck parks there, that's the one thing. I don't want to speak out of turn into the operations.
Mr. Cody, the point is, we're complying with the state law with regard to...
It's for EV.
Okay.
And lastly, has there been and will there be a health risk study, especially for the air quality, being it isn't not only close to a residential area, but a school? Quality health risk assessment
I think
in accordance with NJDEP. Do you know of any study or report that will accompany this?
That's been asked and answered.
I've been here and I don't remember hearing it.
It's been asked and answered.
Okay, if you say so. That's all.
All right, hearing and seeing no other questioners coming forward, we'll move on to the next.
Mr. Chairman, can I throw a couple more questions in before he sits down? It's okay?
Sure.
All right, thank you. The elevation change is about 40 feet from, I guess, the eastern part, which is Parsippany Road, towards the back of the property where the trucks go.
Correct.
And according to your drainage plan, everything is being done to divert that water so the East Lake School does not, flood out and things like that. Okay.
That's
and then
correct.
also, is everything being done to make sure that if there was, let's say, 2 trucks colliding, just saying, and 2 fuel spills, that everything will be made done that fuel will not make it to Lake Parsippany?
It goes through a water quality scenario, so
Right,
the
so it's
fuel
going to
would have
be
to
picked
go
up by
through-
something
yeah,
sucks it up?
It'd have to go through the system entirely.
All right, and all those will be installed properly and all along regulations and so on.
Yeah.
So
And-
people should not have to fear that the lake will get polluted from some runoff from this building.
That's correct.
Okay, that's an important thing I could tell from some of the concerns of the people, including my concerns as well. And then I don't know about the demolition, but would demolition take place during school hours? Is that something that was thought of? How would that work out?
Again,
Is there a way we could do it where it would not happen during school, not during recess time?
Well, again,
Just throwing it out
not a question for the board, but there will be a developers agreement that would be entered into between the applicant and the municipality, the mayor and council, and those types of issues are typically addressed in the developers agreement as opposed to the redevelopers agreement.
Yeah.
There's a separate agreement that would in part address those types of issues.
Okay, I know Mr. DiPiero is not here, always ask the same question. When there's demolition, do you try to avoid the schools? Like going by the school? It's going to be impossible to avoid going by the school. It's right there. So I know the trees are there and it's going to help out, but just be conscious of that. Kids like to go outside, teachers like to get that break. They get
Oh,
around.
absolutely.
So
And
we can get it done when the kids are not outside. That'd be very
Yeah,
helpful.
good point, and again, we'll address that in the developers
Thank you
agreement.
for doing that. Thank you.
Other members of the board have further questions? No. If it's to this engineer on this testimony at this time,
Okay, so I just have one question.
if you could identify yourself and
Kaylee
your...
McIntosh, 16 Allentown Road, Parsippany, New Jersey. I'm the first house at the top, across the street from Subway. You're familiar with it? Yes. Okay. Very heavy traffic, right? I don't know if you guys remember, if you lived here a while, when the trucks like came around and they went right into the front of my house twice. That was like crazy.
We
Anyway.
had one question, I think.
Yeah. Well, I was just wondering. Okay. So, are you familiar with, statute 39-4-138.4?
Is this asking the engineer a question with
Did you
regard
stipulate-
to
reading
his...
it.
Did you stipulate what the number does not recall right off the
Okay.
top?
Once again, this code is, it prohibits certain activities within 1,000 feet
What,
of
I'm
school
sorry,
property.
what law, what reference? There's a lot of administrative codes within the state of New Jersey proper,
Right.
through all different agencies. So to ask the question, I would need to know what the source of the specific agency you're calling that
These
from.
are federal regulations.
So EPA?
So,
I can't answer the question. I'm not trying to avoid a question, but if it's a
well,
question
this is
relative to
state and
something,
local, regulations.
I have to
and
know how it's applicable to the project.
This has to do with New Jersey school zone and traffic laws. So it's New Jersey Rev statute code, I don't know. If you want, you could just read it right here.
Well, I think that if you have a question, you should ask the question, otherwise,
But the applicant has already agreed
My
that they are going to comply with every single federal and state and county law and rule.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem. That's not a problem. I understand the willingness to do that. This is more about the fact that, one, all this is fantastic, but you have to understand how much money it's going to wind up costing for what is being proposed.
We
in the
don't know
moment.
anything at all about what you're talking about. We really don't.
You
Never
all
heard of
have
it
to
before.
look up what a carbon budget is. It is the future of reality. Basically, it has to do with emissions. It has to do with,
Mr. Chairman,
has to do with
objection,
with pollution, toxins in the air.
objection on relevance here, and
I'm
we're
sorry,
way
but
beyond.
this is not what we are here to deal with. The fact that if there is a non-compliance with a state or federal regulation with regard to pollution, they agree that they will either comply with it or not do it if they can't comply with it.
It's not about complying. It's about the fact that once this goes into effect, you're looking at right away a negative $750,000 deficit, a loss, right?
We still have no idea what you're talking about. We really don't. There are no experts up here who can tell me what you're talking about.
We don't know if it's, I don't know, again, what statute you're referencing, but is it, you said it's to be adopted in 2 years?
So it's already started. It has to do with the greenhouse initiative.
Okay, but I don't understand what you mean by in 2 years when it goes into effect. Has it been passed? We don't
Oh,
know anything
yes,
about.
it's already in effect. We already have a carbon budget, okay? How much energy that your phone uses, from the battery charging is part of the carbon budget. Basically, what happens is it's gonna cost the government
All right, again, we're going,
$750,000.
I have to stop you because what
Okay.
you're going back to what I already explained to you, was you're presenting your case, but we're not there yet. Okay, so you have to ask questions of the engineer's testimony. If you have a cross-exam question, you can.
So my question is, what is the condition that that building's in?
Not a relevant question. It's not a question that's relevant to the
It's a
testimony.
proposed building, so it's, you know, I mean, it's not built yet, so it's a proposed building, so there is no condition currently.
Okay, but what if there was a way to keep the existing building and get an actual return of profit?
Speak into the microphone.
All right. Basically, if you could agree to keep the building, let's say that was there, and
Mr.
get
Chair,
actual.
we've been through a whole redevelopment process where the property has already been declared blighted in need of redevelopment. Redevelopment plan has already been adopted, and this is just not a line of questioning that is at all relevant to these proceedings. I apologize, but I just, the questions that you're asking are not at all relevant to what we're here for.
Well, it is actually. It just seems that I missed, I guess, learning about this. Like I said, I only learned about this today at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was able to put all this together. I mean, I thought it was going to be a real, you know, speak your case type of thing.
It will be.
Ma'am, just a quick question. It sounds a lot like you're addressing the owner of the property.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't own the property.
No, I know that.
Yeah, okay.
I spoke to him already.
Okay, so again, I think what you're talking about is interesting, but it does have to wait to the end.
Right.
Just so we give you your real opportunity to have that conversation. Yeah. But for this, I don't think it's going to pertain to this gentleman.
It's just, I figured out 8 ways basically to have a very good return with not creating something that's going to create EPA problems.
Here's the process here. The applicant has sat down with the property owner and developed a building. That building is in line with a redevelopment plan that the governing body has approved, that this board already vetted and approved.
Mm-hmm.
That building requires a site plan and a few variances. They are presenting that to us. So we are still in the middle of presentation. We don't fully know what the project is yet as a board. We are still learning, as is the members of the public. We're still gathering information. There will be a deliberation period and a comment period, but again, like I said before, that will come later.
Right, I was just trying to save everybody that.
That's not we can't shortchange the process and go directly to the end. Okay, this is the process that's developed by the municipal land use law. The applicant has every right to present this case.
No, I believe it.
Okay, but we can't shortchange the process and go directly to the end and say, this is not acceptable because of this statute is applicable, therefore it's denied, right? The applicant has every right to present each and every witness he feels suitable, as do the members of the public. Okay, this is the process that has to play itself out. We are still only in the middle. Okay. So I ask maybe some patience, fact-finding, we're in the fact-finding process right now. Allow the applicant to present this testimony, and with each witness, we will learn more and more and more about the project.
Okay.
Okay?
So, all right, that's fine.
And I assure you again, you will be given the opportunity to present a case, to cite whatever statute you might be looking at, to make whatever case about alternative designs. You'll be given that opportunity. We're just not there yet.
It's funny because it's not alternative designs. It's just that you guys are going to be paying a lot of money.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I would like to proceed with our case.
Yes, we're going to allow the applicant to proceed with their case. If you could please allow them to do that.
Does everybody know, can I just ask one? Does everybody know about AI and analytics?
Mr. Chairman, we just like to present our case if we
We're just
can.
going forward with the case right now. Counselor.
So, Mr. Chairman, at this time, we're actually going to call Kyle Ferrier of Arco Design Build to provide architectural testimony. His testimony is going to be brief, and I want to be able to get it in. So if I can call Kyle Ferrier as our next witness.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Mealy?
Would it be proper to have a 5-minute break at this point?
If it's important to you, then it's important to me.
No, for the public and for yourselves. I'm good.
I think I have a motion to have a 5-minute break. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. We're going to have a 5-minute break. You had their chance for their break? Okay. We're going to be calling the meeting back to order. All right. Again, the special meeting for the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills Planning Board for Monday, June 10th, 2024 is reconvening. Nora, would you call the roll, please?
McGrath. McGrath. Is he here?
He said
Here.
Did he? Okay, Mealy.
Here.
Napolitano.
Here.
Stanzio.
Here.
Dinsmore.
here. All right, Counselor, move along.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, we'd like to call Mr. Kyle Ferrier of Orco Design and Builds, who is the project architect, for testimony.
Favor, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Name and address for the record, please. Please spell your last.
Kyle Ferrier, Ferrier, with Arco Design Build, 200 North Warner Road, King of Prussia, PA, 19406.
Thank you. Mr. Ferrier, can you please provide your professional background for the board, include your education, professional experiences, and any licenses that you possess?
Sure. I have a Bachelor of Architecture from Philadelphia University. I have about 9 years working in light manufacturing and storage, like light industrial facilities such as this. I'm a licensed architect in New Jersey. Among other states, I've testified for boards throughout Pennsylvania and New Jersey, not in Parsippany.
And you've been accepted as an expert witness from boards in New Jersey?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We offer Mr. Ferrier as an expert in the area of architecture.
Any questions on Mr. Ferrier's qualifications? Hearing and seeing none.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ferrier, can you please provide the architectural aspects of this project to the board?
Sure. I have 3 exhibits. I'll introduce this first one here. The A13, I believe.
I think we're up to 12. We had a false start, so I think we're up to 12.
So this will be 12. Yeah, so this is a floor plan of facility. It has a lot of the same information that my colleagues.
So that's A12?
I put A12, yes.
Okay, can you just describe what the exhibit is?
Yeah, it's a floor plan of the building.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Is there a date on that plan, sir?
dated February 29th this year. Okay, so contains a lot of similar information that my colleagues spoke to already, so I won't regurgitate too much here. Same orientation as all the other plans that you've seen here. About 140,000 square feet warehouse. We have the future office area designated in the upper right of the page, upper right corner, that would be the southeast corner. I do want to speak to one comment that was made in the initial review of the square footages, not quite aligning between this and my colleagues' deliverables. This block is not really called out as a square footage. Graphically, it reads a little bit less than what is being proposed, but I can test that it will be 5,000 square feet, not what is shown here dimensionally. Yeah, and it's pretty straightforward. We have the, like I said, main entrance in the southeast corner here. On the west side is the loading docks and driving ramps. The only other piece of information I'll add is, we have perimeter doors, pretty much all along the perimeter. I don't know approximately how many, but several per side for egress, emergency access, that sort of thing. Move on to my next exhibit, which I'll label A13, also dated February 29th. So these are 2-dimensional elevations of the proposed building. One small 3D view here, but yeah, we have each side of the building, north, south, east, west. The building will be made of tilt-up concrete construction with architectural reveals cast into the concrete. That defines a paint scheme here. We have some Sherwin-Williams colors selected, but it's a neutral gray, kind of blue tone, neutral paint scheme. We have proposed glazing at the entrance area with what we call knockouts for future openings, should the end user choose to add more glass. There was another comment in the initial review about the the roof type, and regarding flat roofs and requiring any additional treatment. There's no real special features associated with this roof. It will be designed to be solar ready, as was alluded to earlier. That requirement is that 40% of the roof have the capacity for future solar, so not be installed day one, but has the capacity to. So that will be designed into the structure of the building. But there will be no other special treatments as far as vegetated roofs or things like that. We're proposing a white TPO roof, which is a pretty industry-wide standard for this type of facility. The project is not necessarily pursuing any sustainability certifications, but that type of roof is often used to meet those standards. Any rooftop equipment will be located interior to the building, not at the edge, at the perimeter, so it will not require any screening and will not be visible from ground level. And lastly is, there's not much to say on this one, it's just a 3D representation of what the front area of the building would be. So this would be the southeast corner, the main entrance of the building.
So
I'll call
mark
this
that as A14.
A14. So this depicts, you know, the overall look and feel of the building, the concrete panel with the sort of these, reveals cast into the concrete, which define, you know, the different transitions of paint and so on. Some glazing here at the main entrance, canopy over the main entrance as well. So that gives a depiction of what the thing will look like.
Okay. Anything else?
No, there's questions.
Okay. Turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions by members of the board on the architect's renderings? All right.
I have one question. Just on the building height, do you have any elevation views?
Yeah, so that was my last exhibit here, A13. Yep, these are called out. At the highest point, it is 44 feet.
From the finished floor?
From finished floor, yes.
And it's allowed is 50 feet from perimeter grade?
I want to say it's 50 or 45. I'm confusing a couple of projects in my head at the moment.
It's 50.
It's 50. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. So that requires a design waiver for the non-treatment of the roof because it is below that height. And you said the office space was 5,000 square feet?
5,000 square feet,
Is
yes.
that single level or is that supposed to be?
It will, I mean, could potentially, sometimes there is a, you know, it's like a mezzanine above, but the square footage being
It's based
proposed
on
will
the
not
footprint?
exceed, yeah, based on 5,000 square feet.
And just ask, assuming if the board acts favorably, that the plans be updated to clearly indicate that.
What was the design waiver? Can you please repeat that?
So per 7.3.5F, exposed surface of flat roofs which are less than the maximum building height and potentially visible from taller neighboring buildings shall be treated to create an aesthetic appearance from above.
7.3.5 F
Yes, of the redevelopment plan.
of the redevelopment. The only question I had, Mr. Ferrier, was the pump building. There was testimony before that it would be able to be matched with this type of structure, but the structure being concrete paneling. How would you go about making the pump building match this kind of exterior elevation?
We could, more often than not, it's it's like CMU construction. We could match a paint scheme. Obviously, that would have a different texture. I don't know the practicality of doing the small pump house. It's about like 15 by 15 feet or so, and it
They showed 20 by 20.
was it 25? Okay. But yeah, small building, not very tall, but it does connect directly to the tank. I don't know how conducive a solid concrete panel doing that versus doing it in CMU, but we would, yeah, it would.
The point is so that it blends so it doesn't stand out as being something out of.
Yeah, it would be concrete, so it would be the same material. We can treat it the same as far as the paint scheme and colors, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, do that.
And per the redevelopment plan, it should be consistent and complementary to the building.
Yes, yep.
Perfect. Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions by members of the board? Any questions by members of the public on this testimony at this time?
Julia Peterson, 25 Old Parsippany Road. Any attempt to blend the building with anything that's around it? And especially in terms of color is what I'm thinking. That's,
it's a little challenging just to the nature of the facility. That's why we choose to do a neutral scheme. This certainly isn't going to clash with anything that's nearby because it's grays and sort of neutral tones. That's about the extent of the...
What are the egress doors for?
An emergency evacuation scenario, so people can get out of the building.
So they're not regularly in use? It's
Right.
just like if... And what does it look like inside? It's just empty to the ceiling?
Well, once there is an end user, a tenant, typically I'll pull up my previous exhibit, the A12, the floor plan, typically this first 60 feet in from the loading dock area is just open floor space for receiving and staging deliveries in and out. The remainder of the facility, minus the office area, aisles of storage racks up to a certain clear height. The building is 36 foot clear, so those racks would come in just below that.
Will it be capable of having a green roof structurally?
No, it will be capable of, it will have the capacity for future solar, per the New Jersey regulation, I don't remember off the top of my head, but 40% of the roof is required to be able to accommodate future solar. I'm no structural engineer, the requirements for a green roof are much more significant than solar panels because of the earth, and it's very thick assembly, so no, we're not proposing that to be
Okay,
capable.
so it would be a much different kind of structure to be a green roof?
Yes, it
Okay.
requires a lot more
Thank you.
substantial structure. Yep.
Other questions of this witness on this testimony?
On the first drawing, you made reference to future,
If you could please identify yourself first, please.
pardon? I'm sorry, I can't.
Ms. Persicki, if you could identify yourself
Again?
again.
Okay, Mary Persicki and former resident of Parsippany. Okay, you had showed on that first sketch, and you said that there would be a place for former openings. What do you mean by by
Sure.
future, I'm sorry, future
Yeah.
openings?
It's probably best to show here. So at the main entrance area, we're proposing 3 sections of glazing, one being at the front door, the others being just providing, future windows for the office area. Might be hard to see here, but basically they will cast grooves into the panels above that. So if, say, the end user wanted to have additional glass, like second story height glass, those can be cut out and glazing can be installed later on.
So it doesn't refer to the bays at all? The bays are set at what, how many bays? The bays are set at what number?
I'm sorry, what do you
The
mean by
bays
bays?
for the tractor trailers to enter into the building. How many bays?
I think the testimony was 20.
Pardon?
I think the testimony was 20.
Is 20?
20 was the testimony.
The testimony is 20 bays, and they're specifically designed for tractor trailers, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, they are. So the area that the trucks will be backing up to load into the building is 4 feet below the floor of the building, so they can unload the trucks directly onto the floor facility.
Okay. So if they unhook from their cab, where would those trucks then go? Park, what, you would have the trailer parked into the bays, and there'd be a specific time, I would guess, that you would unload and load. And what happens to the cab part?
I can't speak in too great a detail about the operation. I can say just from the plan, there is no dedicated place for cabs to be stored on site, so they will either be attached to the trailer at the loading dock or off-site.
They have to,
en route to another
there's a
facility or-
possibility they would be off-site then?
Well, this is architectural testimony.
Right.
Well,
This is really not, this is running far afield from architectural testimony and the testimony given by the witness.
Okay, thank you.
Nick Cormier again, 26 on Night Avenue, Lake Hiawatha. Can you show us where the trash dumpster or where the waste would go on that diagram?
I believe it's dedicated, that was shown on one of my colleagues' testimony. I believe that's here at the end of the loading area.
Does it include a recycling source separation or just trash?
That I do not know.
It's not his testimony, Mr. Homiak.
I just thought he could show it to me on the diagram, that's all. And, you know, you try to sneak a question in there here and there.
I was being kind.
Randy Tortorello, 180 Flemington Drive, Parsippany. Is the color set in stone? And I don't mean...
Right. No, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of the applicant. This was designed in conjunction with them.
Right.
I'm short of
So-
speaking for them. I'm sure they would be open to,
All right, because of what Mrs. Peterson said too, of the surrounding area. Such a light color, a lot of light reflection. To me, that makes you see this building even more so. So my thought, being a professional and designer, that we would be able to go to something that was closer in color to the funeral parlor, or a more natural color than what everybody's doing right now in gray and white. That's what I wanted to know. So, thank you.
All right. Any other questions on this witness, on this testimony at this time? Hearing and seeing none. Oh.
Christina Espinosa, 131 Marmora. So basically, this is for dry goods, right? Because there's no refrigeration or anything like that in the building.
I don't think this is,
That was the last.
Well, he's an
Or the
architect, he's
architect.
building it's the plans for the building, right?
he's designing it, he's not operating it. It's
Yeah,
not-
so he's not designing
it's not
a
a question for the-
refrigerator or a
it's not a
freezer?
question for the architect.
I can answer it briefly. It's not currently designed to hold, it's designed for dry storage.
Okay,
No refrigeration proposed at this time.
okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Sorry.
Slurkey Lampy, 51 Allentown Road. What did you say the height of this warehouse would be, the height of the warehouse?
At its highest point, on my elevations here, it's 44 feet at the highest point of the roof from finished floor. I mentioned 36 feet, that would be the clear height inside the building, so if that was any confusion, but from the outside, 44 feet above.
Yeah. Well, what
the floor.
concerns me is this echo stone wall that's supposed to
Is this a
absorb
question for the
sun.
architect?
Pardon?
Is this a question for the architect?
Well, if he's an architect, he should know about the echo stone wall. The height is only 16 feet. I'm just worried that it's not going to absorb all the sound that comes out of this warehouse being 44 feet high.
But that's not his testimony.
Well, whose testimony is that?
That was the sound engineer on May 20th.
Well, so no one can answer that question then?
I certainly can't. I mean, the sound expert testified, it's on the video on the website, all questions
You
were
can always
answered.
represent what he said.
I don't recall what he said,
Oh,
but
okay.
I know that the video was there for public view.
What I can say is I think the primary concern of the noise coming off the facility is not at 44 feet. It's down at the truck court level.
So it would be like 24 feet?
Can you speak into the microphone?
It would be 24 feet?
The truck area where the trucks will be docked sits 4 feet below finished floor of the building. The height of a loading dock door is 10 feet from finished floor, so that's 14 feet from ground. When you factor in the grades, the height of the wall in relation to it, I can't speak to the section up a site of, where you're going to be standing and what you will see. The truck noise, however, will not be coming from a height above the wall because the trucks are at floor level of the building.
Oh, okay.
Paul Bazaar, 69 Allentown Road. I want to see your
Can you speak
plan.
into the microphone?
I want to see your drawings with your colleagues' drawing, trying to understand what's facing what side. So if you can put up your...
Sure.
The other drawing. Yes.
So this view is as if you're standing at the top right corner of this page looking at the blue area. Right where this red text is, you're standing right here. These are the parking spaces you see here. This is that corner of the building, right there.
That's facing Parsippany Road? Yes,
that is to the right.
And so the loading is the school side.
Yes.
And so from the loading zone to the school property, what's the distance? I know this may not be yours, but maybe your colleagues.
Yeah.
But now I can see differently, so that's what I'm asking now.
Sure. I believe my colleague said 188 feet.
And how tall is the buffer? Buffer wall?
The wall of the loading dock?
Between this property and the school property?
Talking about the Echo Stone?
Yes.
I believe it was said to be 16 feet.
70?
16 feet high.
Oh,
is
16
the wall.
feet high, okay. And you said the sound level is at the truck loading dock. And I'm assuming that this activity is going to be happening during the daytime, 9 to 5, which is when the school is running. So how much of a noise this truck is going to generate?
Yeah,
I know this is sound, yes, I know it's a sound.
Yeah, this is
But
not,
as an
it's not for this witness.
understand. But as an architect, can you do something that can prevent this truck making noises that can be heard to the schools during the class time?
Respectfully, that's not a question for this witness.
They've agreed to comply with the township ordinances, which will allow only for 65 decibels at the property line and 50 decibels at night.
Okay. Then my next question is, you say it's 16 feet tall wall. From the school ground level, how much of the building is seen?
Is that something that you can answer?
No, I mean, I'd have to look at one of my colleagues' deliverables. I believe
Yeah, that's not a question for the architect.
I mean, he drew the building, right? He should know how much at the building level kids will be able to see the building.
There was testimony, extensive testimony
yeah.
on all of that.
And May 20th, if you go to the May 20th
Okay.
hearing, there's a significant amount. And you can also get some of the material from Nora on that.
Because Allentown Road is the back of this building, and we have to see the side of the back of this building, which has no aesthetic purpose of it. Everything is in the front. So it concerns me as an Allentown resident. That's why I'm asking how the back looks like and how much the wall's gonna affect the view.
So apart from the glazing and the canopy over the entrance doors, the loading dock side of the building is treated the same as the rest of it. You can see all four of these elevations have the same treatment as far as reveals, breaking up the long blank wall with different colors, and so there actually are small clear story windows on the loading dock side, but it's treated the same apart from the features at the main entrance of the building that employees will be using. It's treated the same as far as colors, accent reveals, and that sort of thing as the rest of the building.
And you will also see these trucks that are parked there.
Well, yes. But I'm not, yeah.
That concerns us, but thank you.
Other members of the public have questions on this testimony? Hearing and seeing none. Counselor, you got somebody who's real quick?
Yeah, I have a traffic engineer who will be quick.
Questions may be required to be asked at the next meeting.
I understand. Okay.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address for the record, please.
Alan Lothian, AlanLothian.
Okay, Mr. Lothian, can you please provide the board with your professional background, education, place of employment, and any licenses that you possess?
All right, I work for Langen. I've been there over 25 years. The address is 1 University Square Drive, Princeton, New Jersey, 08540. I have a bachelor's of science in civil engineering from Rutgers, a master's of science in transportation from NJIT. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, and I've testified before dozens of boards, including this one.
So we would respectfully request that Mr. Lothian be accepted as an engineer, traffic engineer.
Any questions on Mr. Lothian's qualifications? Hearing and seeing none.
Okay, Mr. Lothian, please, if you could, discuss the traffic aspects of this application for the board.
Okay, I'll try to hit on some of the comments that Mr. Cangiano had and some of the members of the public as well, as much as I can, to try to condense my testimony. Access from the site was already described by a previous site engineer, but it's 2 access points along Lanedex Plaza West, which includes the eastern driveway, which is for passenger cars, western driveway for trucks, and then there's circulation for emergency vehicles around the building. There's also a sidewalk proposed from the passenger car parking area to the signal at Parsippany Road. And whether there is a sidewalk across the frontage or not, there is direct access for the pedestrians across Parsippany Road using the signalized crosswalk to access the surrounding roadway network. And then Mr. Cote, earlier in his testimony, identified what we are planning to do to address Mr. Cangiano's comment with respect to the radius in the northwest corner of Parsippany Road and the Plaza West, which bends in and creates a better radius for those trucks entering from the north. So with all that, we believe there's safe and efficient access provided for this permitted use. So then I'm going to the traffic engineering part of it, which involves what we prepared in our traffic impact study. So the traffic impact study is dated January 18th, 2024. And I'm going to go through some of the trip generation first. So the Institute of Transportation Engineers has a manual of trip generation that looks at all different types of land uses. For this particular project, we looked at the existing, which is an office, land use code 710 for general office, and we looked at warehousing, general warehousing, land use code 150, which is the more conservative of almost all of the warehouse types. So we looked at the difference between the two. So the 56,230 square foot office would generate approximately 85 trips in the morning, 81 trips in the evening, and 610 daily trips. The proposed 140,000 plus warehouse projected is going to generate, based on conservative, higher generation peak hour of the generator of the facility, not necessarily the street peak hours, which are 7 to 9, 4 to 6, would generate 44 morning trips, 41 PM trips, and 260 daily trips. So that's a net reduction of 41 trips in the morning, 40 trips in the evening, and about 350 trips overall during the course of the day. Now, what everybody is concerned about is the trucks. So out of those 260 daily trips, there will be 84 truck trips, which equates to approximately 42 trucks during the course of 24 hours. And during the peak hours, the conservative estimate is 8 trips in the morning, 8 trips in the evening. So to put that into perspective, in any one direction on the roadway network, you're looking at 1 new truck trip every 15 minutes on average. So you wouldn't notice that on the roadway network. Parsippany Road is County Route 511. It is part of the New Jersey Access Network for trucks, and it has direct connection to national network, specifically, less than a mile down the road to the I-287 interchange. And then to the north, you have I-80, and you also have Route 46, which is also part of the New Jersey network. So that difference, one of the questions was distribution. So we did a journey to work model for the distribution of passenger car trips, and we found that 62% of the passenger cars would be coming to and from the north, and 38% would be coming to and from the south. For truck trips, the most direct access to that national network is to and from the interchange to the south with 287. So 75, we estimated 75% of the trucks would go to and from the south, and 25% would utilize Parsippany Road to and from the north. Let's see. I think that hit on a few of the questions. And then we took that trip generation and we analyzed the intersection of Parsippany Road and Lanadex Plaza. We did counts on a typical Tuesday from 6 to 9 in the morning and 3 to 7 in the afternoon to capture the school peak hours, and it was on a day that school was in session. The peak hours were found to be 7:45 to 8:45 in the morning and 3 to 4 in the afternoon. We include background traffic, including a 2.5% growth rate over a couple of years, and the Park Parsippany project, which is directly across the road. And we analyzed both a base condition without anything. We analyzed the reoccupied condition with the office reoccupied, and then we analyzed a build condition with the proposed warehouse. And what we found across all of them, across all scenarios, AM, PM, the overall level of service at the intersection was overall level service B. All movements were level service D or better. And then at the driveway along Lanadex Plaza, there was much activity there. The level of service would be A at those driveways. So there was no significant impact from the base condition to the reoccupied to our build condition. The volume associated with the site, again, I said 45 and 41 peak hour trips. ITE and New Jersey Department of Transportation looks at 100 trips as a significant impact to any roadway. We're less than half of the 100 trips. And with the net difference, the net negative of our site compared to what could be occupied there, what was formerly there, we do not have a significant impact on the surrounding roadway network. I think that hits all of it. So I'm open to any questions you might have.
Andrew?
Yeah, just to follow up, I didn't hear you talk about Saturdays. What happens on Saturdays?
Sorry, Mr. Canjiano. Yeah, I was going. So on Saturdays, if there's activity on a Saturday, because not every warehouse operates on a Saturday, but if there is, it's typically at a lower level than the weekday, AM, PM, and also historically on Parsippany Road, the volume on Saturday is significantly less than during that AM and PM peak hours. So any relative impact would be less than what we are showing for the AM and the PM peak hours.
And you had the peak hour AM trucks at 8. Is that from the ITE? Would that be the peak time as well? Do you see truck traffic? Or is there some kind of curve that, or graph that where the truck traffic peaks at a different time than the AM or PM peak?
So what we looked at, and that's a great question, thank you. We looked at the facility peak. So the facility peak doesn't necessarily correspond with the street peak. The street peak is somewhere between 7 and 9 a.m. And as we identified, 7:45 to 8:45. Truck activity and the facility itself more is in line with the 10 a.m. time frame. It's typically outside the street peak hours. So it's during the course of the day is when most of the truck activity occurs.
And how many truck trips would be in an hour at your peak time?
That would be the 8 that we analyzed as part of our analysis.
But even at that 10 o'clock
Yes.
time you mentioned?
Yes. So if we looked at the street peak truck generation, it would be about half of what we analyzed. So it would be about 4 total trips.
If what? I missed what you were saying.
So we analyzed the conservative facility peak on top of the street peak.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha.
if we looked at, so there are calculations that you can do in the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation manual where you can look at the 7 to 9 and 4 to 6 specifically, and the volume associated with there would be significantly less than what we analyzed.
Okay, thank you.
Other members of the board have questions on Mr. Napolitano?
Thank you. Thank you for that. So just to go back, you said you included Park as, and their amount of cars in your traffic study?
Yes.
Yeah, that was very kind of you to do that. All right. And if someone is living in Park and wants to walk to the work at the warehouse, can they safely get across Parsippany Road, down a sidewalk to that building to go to work?
Yes, so on the Park side, there was a sidewalk built out on the entire eastern side of Parsippany Road. There's also a sidewalk that goes down into the Park facility. I believe it's on the northern side of their driveway. And then we are providing a sidewalk from from the southwest corner of the intersection into the passenger car parking lot, which is where the access to the facility will be.
So they can get across safely?
Yes.
Thanks.
Other members of the board have any questions on this testimony at this time? Hearing and seeing none. Are there members of the public who have questions? Please come forward and identify yourself. Grab a microphone.
Hello, Linda Wims, 132 Marcella Road, Parsippany, New Jersey. Yes, I have a question regarding the traffic. If there's a lot of trucks on Parsippany Road for cars that are either coming from the lake or cars that are on Parsippany Road, especially if they're on the opposite side of where the trucks are traveling, so whether the trucks are going north or south or east or west, whatever the direction is, sometimes it's hard to come out of the lake or possibly out of the apartments and make a left turn with just cars and an occasional bus. How is it going to be for all of these streets that are parallel, or the apartments trying to make a left in front of, I can't think of the name of the big trucks. You know, as far as them stopping, I mean, they don't have the stopping radius that a car has to let somebody cross, whether it's a car coming in front or a person crossing the road. And also from 287, there's a light at 287, there's just a blinker light at the ambulance. There's no lights until you get to Allentown, and then again from the facility going towards 46, you have a senior complex, you have the apartment, and then there's a lot of people there that again need to make a left. Not all of the lights are there to allow the stoppage of traffic. So how is it that, you know, what is the impact of those trucks that, again, I mean, there may be a lot, you're talking about the low impact times, but when there's high impact times, you know, there's a lot of trucks, they don't have a good stopping radius, and they're on their business, and they're trying to get where they're going. They're not, maybe gonna be, courteously letting everybody pass because, you have time to let your neighbors go in front of you. So just a concern with that traffic, but also the safety of somebody trying to get out and where they need to go, especially again, if they're crossing traffic, either waiting for the tractor trailer or going in front of it, behind it.
Okay, I just wanted to wait until you're fully done. There's a couple of things there. So Parsippany Road is identified as a New Jersey truck route, New Jersey access truck route. So that whole stretch from 280 actually starts well below the 287 interchange, all the way up to 46 and a little beyond, is identified as a truck route. There's trucks out there today. What I testified to is on the high side, there will be approximately one new truck every 15 minutes on average. So I'm not, you mentioned that I'm looking at the low side of trucks. We're actually evaluating the high side of trucks. So coming in and out of this facility, you would barely notice a truck into the stream today where there are trucks along Parsippany Road.
Okay.
So the relative impact to the north and the south of Lanedex Plaza will be negligible.
Okay, I'm just concerned with cars coming out and say making a left, crossing the lane to get in the opposite direction if there's traffic of trucks.
Yep, I understand.
Other members of the public who have questions of this witness on this testimony at this time, please come forward and identify yourself. There's a bench if you want to sit, if there's a line.
Again, it's Fulva Shah from 69 Allentown Road. What I would like to know is what time period did you use to study your 7 to 9 and 3 to 7 p.m. traffic pattern?
So what we did is we counted out there from 6 to 9, and then
I meant, what time of the year did you do this?
It was in January.
January. We did not have much of snow, I would assume, at that time, because we didn't have we had a mild season this year. That's one thing. Was there any funeral happening during your time period?
I do not know.
Right. So when the funeral goes on, there's fire trucks there, there's police activities. Was that accounted towards this traffic pattern?
No, that's traffic associated specifically with the funeral parlor. I'm talking about
funeral parlor is right next to it. You have two trucks that trying to make a left turn from south to going towards north. Oh, sorry, my direction might be very weird at this time. Coming from towards the 287. You have two trucks trying to make a left turn at that Lanedex Plaza street or avenue. I don't remember the name of it. And the funeral is going on. People are trying to cross over. There's sometimes fire marshal's funeral going on. There's sometimes police men's funeral going on. And they quite much block from Lanedex Plaza to Allentown Road. Because they have larger equipment, they have too many people coming to view, and so they use Chase Bank's parking. You have not counted all these scenarios in your study, did you?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I want the public to be able to ask questions, and I want the witness to be able to share information. The objection that I have to lodge for the record is that it's really irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that Parsippany Road, A, is a county road, and B, these are all off-site conditions.
I would like to answer to that question.
Legally, we're a permitted use, and under the Dunkin' Donuts case, even if they were municipal roads, all of these questions would really be irrelevant. I don't want to lecture the public on the law. I want people to be able to ask their questions, but I also think that it's useful for the public to understand what the parameters of the law is in this area.
So let me just clarify.
Can I quickly?
Hold on a second.
Okay, go ahead.
So Mr. Inglesino made an objection as to your testimony. Mr. Inglesino is correct as to a point that at some point, the downstream traffic becomes not within the purview of the board's jurisdiction. But you raise a point, that there's a building right next door. He answered your question that he did not take it into account as part of his study, a particular funeral on that day.
Okay.
So he did answer your question.
Right.
Mr. Inglesino's objection is noted for the record.
Okay. So then when he objected and he mentioned that 511 County Road is a national truck highway, is that what you said? I'm sorry.
It's part of the New Jersey access
So,
network.
okay, thank you, sorry. Where the trucks, probably 1 or 2 trucks passes by in a day, in a random hours, not during the peak hours, where you are stating how many trucks we would be seeing during 7 to 9 and 3 to 7?
Well, I take exception to one thing. You said that there's only 2 trucks during the course of an entire day on Parsippany Road. I take exception to that because in the counts that we did, that we conducted on that day, there were trucks both northbound and southbound along Parsippany Road.
Okay.
But to speak, again, it was in any one direction, it's no more than 4 anticipated, which equates to about 1 every 15 minutes on average.
So then my question is, some of them will be coming from 287 south?
Yes.
Or 287, whatever.
Yes, and they would wait in the left turn lane, and when the left turn signal, which is triggered by cameras, gives them the right of way, then they will make the left turn unimpeded.
And the trucks are about 40 feet long?
They're longer than that.
So you have 2 trucks parked, trying to make a left turn back to back, that blocks off the rest of the Parsippany Road.
No, in the unlikely event that there's more than 1 truck, again, the signal is designed to accommodate those trucks.
I just want to say unlikely event happens in real life. You may not want to accept it, but it happens to all the residents who are coming off of Lake Parsippany area, has to deal with this unlikely events. Not to mention severe snowstorms that we have to deal with all the time. God forbid the truck slipped and there goes somebody who lives right there by Lennox Plaza. And another thing, in your scenario, you have not accounted the new redevelopment of park residents who are coming in and out of this area. I'm sure this is not part of your study, correct?
It was, we accounted for what was approved at that site.
We don't know how, but it was what approved, but we yet again do not know the reality of how much of traffic in and out of that area, which is right across your property, will create the amount of traffic on Parsippany Road for the rest of the Lake Parsippany area, correct?
I understand your concerns. We evaluated.
All you have to say yes or no.
Hold on then, let him answer.
Yes.
We evaluated the intersection based on the projections from both our study and Parks.
Okay. So then do you propose anything to ease the traffic? Can you propose to say that you would limit your trucking coming in and out during the peak hours? And of course, I understand that you only study 3 to 9 and, 7 to 9 and 3 to 7. But have you actually looked at around 12 in the afternoon, the traffic of Parsippany where people are going out for lunch, to buy lunch? It's even horrendous than 7 to 9. Have you checked that study?
We evaluated the street peak hours, which typically have the higher peak hours.
You have not.
And again, we looked at 6 to 9 and 3 to 7.
But there is a traffic 11:30 to 2 p.m. and then right after that 2 p.m. the school traffic starts. But that's something you have not studied.
Again, we looked at 3 to 7 to account for the school traffic as well.
So you have not. That's all I have for right now.
All right, I'm going to take
It's
one
quite
more
much of-
question. One more question for this witness, then we're going to call it a night. But the applicant is going to bring this witness back to our next meeting to answer further questions. So So, if,
have one quick question.
all right, if you could come up and identify yourself, but after you,
She was ready to go.
what?
Rosemary Rishardi, 34 Allentown Road in
All right, well-
Parsippany. I just wanted to make sure that these trucks aren't going to take shortcuts through our lake to get onto 287 and to 80 and to 10.
There are specific truck restrictions along that whole route
Yeah, but
that you
we
just.
see trucks coming down Allentown Road. I just want to make sure, because we have the school there too, where if they're going down Allentown Road and go off onto Memorial Road, that they're not interrupting our kids or us.
I understand.
There's a lot of walkers in the lake.
I understand what you're saying, but again, there's legal truck restrictions
Yeah, I
along that whole
understand, but
stretch.
truckers sometimes see all these trucks backed up and they'll come down Allentown Road.
To, quiet, please. We'll allow one more question, then we will
It's a quick one. I was listening to your schedule, which sounds terrific.
Name and address?
Yeah, 20 days
Yeah.
is a lot.
name and address, please.
What?
Name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wendy Altschul, 203 Everett Road. So I was listening to your schedule and the times, but, that's if everything goes well. There's inclement weather, there's traffic, there's accidents on the road. So a lot of times, this backs up trucks. And what I was concerned about, and if you have a plan, if there's a backup and the bays are all full, is there adequate parking for these trucks when they can't get in? And are they going to park on our streets?
Well, that's more of an operational question, but the way warehouses work, it doesn't do them any good to have a surplus of trucks on their site. There's 20 loading bays, and that's what the tenant is permitted. So they go into that knowing that. So I do not anticipate parking on any of local roads.
But what if, you don't anticipate it, but nobody anticipates a backup like that? So is there a contingency plan?
Well, we don't design for extenuating circumstances, when there's accidents along the roadways. We can't control that. What I evaluate is the relative difference with the traffic associated with a typical day versus what could happen.
So you answered my question. You do not have a contingency plan. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Inglesino, due to the lateness of the hour, we're going to adjourn momentarily. I'm going to ask Nora when we can reschedule. And I'm going to ask you to bring back this witness because we haven't finished all the questions yet.
Okay. I know my client is going to ask me if we can get a meeting sooner than July 8th, so I'm going to ask.
No, there's not. The meeting before that is your other application.
Yeah. I'm not doing a special meeting, so I think that's for all of us over here.
That's the next full meeting, that's the next meeting after the 17th. And you have the 4th of July holiday. I understand.
You're not gonna get the list back here.
July 8th.
All right, I'm assuming that's tolling any
Yes.
time or anything like that. All right, do I have a motion adjourning this meeting to July 8th?
And just to be clear, Mr. Chairman, this would be without further notice to the public. This is the notice that the public would be
The only notice
getting.
the public would be getting at this time, so if we agree to July 8th here,
This is the regular meeting, or is this July 8th special meeting?
Regular.
What'd you say? Regular. Okay, I'll make a motion for that.
have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now that we've agreed to this, we are adjourning the meeting right now. We will reconvene this meeting with this witness on July 8th. You can ask this witness any questions that have come to mind that pertain to the subject. Yes, a procedural question.
Yes, my question is, I attended the May 20th meeting, and it was rescheduled at that time for June 3rd.
Right.
And that's what the people who attended that meeting were aware of. I myself did not find out that the special meeting was going to be scheduled for today.
We literally did not have the time on June 3rd to be able to handle that meeting, so.
But I'm just saying that I had found that out myself only from the town clerk. So I just want to know, is something like that going to happen again, that we're going to have to keep calling to see if the meeting will be held on that day, or if it will be?
The usual routine is if it is adjourned to another date, we will make that announcement on that date, and yes, you would have to call the clerk. If you didn't attend, if you were there, you would know.
Yeah, I
Okay, so it's the way we do things.
It's legally permitted to carry, once notice has been given in the paper and to all the residents within 200 feet, that you can carry at the meeting from the day as to a new date certain. That's what the law allows. So we're carrying this to July 8th at 7:30 in these chambers. You would not get new notice. If for some reason that's not the date, then he'll have to renotice everybody again, but as of now, July 8th is the date.
We do it in the Daily Record?
Daily Record.
Yeah.
Again, but this will not be renoticed because you're getting a notice now.
Yep. Other procedural questions?
Is it announced on the website? No.
Oh, there'll be an agenda posted for the July 8th meeting, and you'll see at the July 8th agenda whether this application is on. So you can still see the agenda will be posted on the website.
No, but on the day home, let's say we cancel it, would it be on your website?
If the meeting gets canceled, I'm sure there'll be a cancellation notice on the website. There will be a cancellation notice on the website, but there'll also be cancellation notices, I'm sure, here, that you'll be advised. And then if it gets canceled, likely we'll get new notice anyway.
Procedural question.
Yeah, my question is, this gentleman will be back on July 8th?
Yes.
So our questions will pertain to his traffic, or can we suggest, swing out questions? You know, in reference to having this warehouse, our views on why we should not have it.
At the next meeting, this gentleman will be there to answer your questions. The applicant will then also provide other witnesses as to testimony as to why this is appropriate in this particular location. Then there'll be a chance, once we've gone through that, for people to provide a case either for or against this from the public's point of view. So if the opposition wishes to have people come up and state why they believe this is a bad idea or why they believe this is a good idea, they would then have the opportunity to do that. So that would be at the next probably at the next meeting. So, all right. So,
On July 8th, will we have an opportunity to finally say yea or no? Do you foresee that?
on July 8th, I foresee that you would be able to make the case for or against this application.
Yeah, we only have one other witness, our
Right.
planner, and that's all.
All right. So, motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
A
sir.
motion to adjourn this meeting until July 8th.
We already did that.
Yes.
But a motion to adjourn tonight.
Oh, a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Anybody opposed?
Stay here and clean up.
Yep. Exactly.
No, or I'll kick you out.